That's what YouTube says.
We? No, it's for me. It's still waiting for Sernero.
Let me actually see right now.
Yeah, it's still
Now we're
waiting
here.
for. Oh. No, it's for me. Yep, we're here.
We're gonna turn the
Hooray.
volume down. Hooray, us. What is? Can it be at 1080p? Yes, it can. Do you guys like the little? Something I'm really annoyed about is this like rolling GIF that I made is not seamless. You can also see how the sky moves if you look at it close
Wait,
enough, and then you see it when it changes.
Oh yeah, yeah, you can. Yeah.
Yep. It just updated.
What's this?
All right. So while people are here, welcome, welcome.
Welcome to
Viewer
stream.
activity, stream analytics. Here we go. That's nice. People know to make it look nice. And it's just gonna say starting soon the whole time. So, yay us! Oh my gosh, look at that.
Where is Jealous said that he woke up, right? Yeah.
He'll be in here soon. He did. It's 10 a.m. where he lives.
Oh, he's probably, yeah.
Oh, the new. Oh yeah, you guys haven't seen the new
He's
color
on
graded
stuff,
HD yet.
What?
Yeah, look, it's the old real time, but it got color graded. Jack showed me the other day.
Damn.
Really nice.
Yeah,
The
let's see it.
old one. Oh, it is the old one.
I think it's good this year because
Oh, it's the old one.
Okay.
No,
Jeez.
no, it's 2024. It's last year's one. Just
Oh, 2024. It doesn't look
I
like
swear 2024 had better water.
Yeah.
2024
it's just 'cause
water
it's-
is really good. It's just you can't see it because the lighting is different. Once the ship starts sinking, I noticed that the water gets like a lot better.
it's just the wake. The wake just kind of
Yeah.
distorts.
Yeah, that's how it kind of would look. I feel like that's also just kind of how it would look in real life. Like if you had a
Yeah.
glowing wake a lot.
I think
Probably, yeah.
Here's my this render I'm sending is my desktop wallpaper on my laptop because I love it so much. This is an older one. You can see the shear stripe in it. It's a different color. So I updated it
Oh, that's-
after
Yeah,
Brady
like
sent
that,
that thing
like
to the Titanic RMS.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I
That's
mean,
actually really good.
yeah, I really like this one. You can. It's a little less obvious that the background is an image, but you can still, if you look at the horizon, you can really tell.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Okay. Everyone's volume must be okay. Livestream is good. Someone's a Gab1914X is a history fan. Gab, we are one of the same. Because I'm also a history fan. I'm taking an art history class right now. It's an interesting class.
Mostly because it's fantastic to be in the same
Art history?
Yeah, transatlantic modernism.
more or less for a decade.
Ooh.
All right. What do you do in art history?
Kyle,
I think you're like a.
time here.
Yeah.
We write
Like-
essays.
What are
We
you excited for?
Right.
we just write essays and look at random artworks. I mean, that's it.
What do you do in art history? I guess I don't know what else I was expecting.
We write. We do look at a lot of paintings though. I'm turning. By the way, on Discord, I'm turning everyone's stream volume down just so then because on the live stream it does pick up. But keep watching, keep streaming it. Just don't like. You're fine. Yeah, don't worry about it. Just keep if you want to keep streaming. So you're gonna see that the starting soon and the actual real time look different because the real time that we're watching literally was the last render I ever made before Eevee updated to get ray tracing.
Oh.
So that's kind of sad, but it's fine. Okay, I'm turning my mic volume down. I think that's a good mic volume. There we go. All the lovely people, all 5 people.
5
So
people.
where is Titanic at this very moment? Where is it?
At the
Titanic
bottom.
would
Well,
be-
right now it's at the bottom of the ocean.
At
Oh.
this time, right now, yeah, she's about motion. But if you're talking about this time, 112 years ago, she would be
She's 13 minutes out.
20 minutes from the berg. Yeah. Well, in my time, according to my time, she's 20 minutes from hitting the berg.
Yeah, for me she's about Yeah, 18 for me because
Yeah.
for some reason, for where I live, like in the United States, we have to subtract 2 minutes because of time zone things.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So here we go, miles per hour, mph to feet per minute.
Titanic. At this time, Titanic would be coming at about. She's doing about 20 knots, 21 knots this time.
So she's 25.
Murdoch.
Oh wow, she's close.
Yeah,
Oh wait.
Murdoch is just after been put on watch. Murdoch's just after
9
taking his
times
watch off
18.
Smith. Smith just after went back to his room about 20 minutes ago. All seems calm. All at this time, there's, in the words of what the chairman of the Titanic Quarter said today, everything was perfect at this time. Nothing was a worry.
Nothing.
It was as normal as any other crossing. Nothing was any different.
Okay, I have the
And this
actual
was-
figures here. She's 8.7 miles or 14 kilometers away exactly from the iceberg.
on Paul Lee's website is a Titanic map. Paul Lee has a.
I literally just went to a conversion calculator and did a bunch of stuff and
All
did
right.
knots
The
to miles per
Paul
hour.
Lee, yeah. So oh, apparently Titanic sunk by this time. Wait, what? No, that can't be right.
No, it's not. If you're on Titanic, if you're on the what's it called,
Yeah.
like the thingy where they
Paul Lee's. This is Paul Lee's website. This can't be correct
No.
because it's at 3:21 in the morning for Titanic. It is only like 11:40.
they go off of a time of their time zone, like literally
Yeah.
their time zone.
Yeah.
Us and Titanic Honor and Glory are going off of the actual time.
Yeah, the actual time zone.
I think yeah, theirs is more like if you really want to experience Titanic without like
Yeah.
Staying up till the crack of dawn.
Yeah.
Which I unfortunately had to do.
Oh,
That's all you, man.
It's like
Please.
2 a.m. for Danny right now.
it's 9
so-
p.m. for me
Oh my
over in Minnesota. Normally it would be 7 p.m., but I'm at college right now.
Last year,
Right
I
now,
stayed
what
up
is 10:20?
for the THG stream, and I was up until 7:30 in the morning.
Oh my gosh, I was
Wow.
doing my stream, but I remember theirs was going for a hot minute after.
Oh, there's been on for ages, and because I was involved with it last year, I'm kind of like this THG stream this year. I have some stuff that I'll be in the credits again this year, so I will have some stuff. So
Oh.
Heck yeah.
I probably have to stay up for this as well. Oh,
Your renders
Oh,
are
God.
like those like awful Titanic copy people that like use Titanic Honor and Glory and the
yeah,
I
yeah,
forgot, it's like Vasigil Rishovic, I think his name is, the really realistic.
yeah.
They like yours
Mhm.
your model's starting to turn into like ones that they use. So I don't know if that's
Oh,
a
thank-
compliment or something that you should like be terrified of, but
No, thank you. That's a compliment. So I can't take any credit for the model. It's actually Genesis. All I've really done is I've added a few interiors, and it just makes it pop. Adding interiors, it just gives it that depth.
it does. If I could, I would add interiors to my model, but the problem is
Blender
because
Blender will die.
Blender would die, and
Yeah.
I would need to put lights in the cabins, and lights on a Blender model. If you look at my Blender model at night, I can pull up a picture right now. You'll notice
Wait,
that
lights-
it's very like
yeah.
sparsely lit.
Yeah, like Unreal Engine, there's an add-on called Mega Lights, and I can have like 2,000 point lights, and it doesn't affect the FPS
Oh
at
my
all.
gosh, I literally only have like 50 on mine too. If I could have 2,000 point lights, I think I would be like in
Yeah.
heaven at that point. Here we go. I'll find it. Yeah, here we go. This is an iceberg render that I put on my Instagram page. I got really annoyed though because if you notice the wake is didn't start loading.
Oh yeah.
So it's just a ball of a particle.
Oh,
This is from the next one. Also, don't mind the texture glitching on the transparent textures. I'll get
Oh,
that
it's in
fixed
the cycles, is
Oh.
it? The cycles.
Oh, this is Eevee.
Sure.
That
Oh,
is-
damn.
Wow.
This is Eevee. Yeah, Eevee ray tracing is no joke. And if you notice, remember how Titanic Honor and Glory, they kind of mentioned that they created this texture for the glass where you can see that like it gets
Yeah,
darker.
yeah.
If you look at the render I
Yeah.
sent of the ship sinking, you can tell that I actually figured out that texture too, and I included it on the model.
Oh, you did.
I did.
Shit.
She'd be looking real nice. The one on the real-time animation that we're gonna be watching doesn't have the new model. This is the older model that I used to use all
Yeah.
the time. it's 9:25, so I think at 9:30 I'll swap it over to the YouTube. No, I'll do that at 9:33. Actually, I'll do that like right before. But yeah, here I'll see.
Alright,
I'll pull up my.
I
my
will
boat.
actually be having to leave now, so you guys have a good night. I'll talk to you later.
You have a
I'll
good
see ya.
night, man. I'll see you.
See ya.
Yeah.
Here you go. Let me
See,
turn.
I will probably stay for another 10 minutes, or else I will be dying in the morning. And
Aw.
I'm shocked I'm awake right now. I was in Belfast for 12 hours. I don't
12
know.
hours. Good lord.
I'm awake.
Here we go. If is my stream? Oh, my stream's being weird. Here, wait. Check my stream on Discord, and you can see how the lights on the boat, how they look real nice.
Let me see.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's
Yeah.
your model is real nice. Damn.
I've put blood, sweat, and tears into this thing. There's also
Damn.
some hidden Easter eggs on this model. So some of my friends, they they wanted me to put them in the model. So
Oh,
I have snuck them in the model,
oh Jesus.
and it's
Ooh.
delightful.
I'm trying right now to change this weight, but I cannot seem to get it.
Here we go. If I turn off the actual ray tracing so I don't blow up my computer, because you know my computer doesn't like that I'm streaming and on a call and also in Blender at the same time.
Yeah.
I do have a it's a nice computer though. It's a very nice computer, but you know it
Has
can
its
only do
limits.
so much.
Yeah.
Here we go. I'm on the Blender model. This is where I created the Titanic. This is my Harland and Wolff, if you will.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that's good.
and I'm gonna really quickly make this be upright again. But if you look inside the funnel, oh no, the texture's missing. Crap, I have to get the texture back. It was a picture of my friend's face projected onto a sphere, and it's.
Oh,
Oh my god.
And then my other friend is in. He's in this
Tell
one, I think. Yeah. Okay, there he is. There's my other friend.
Oh my god.
But you can't tell he's there. You don't know he's there. Like, he's not
There's
there.
actually, yeah, some people don't know this, but Freddy Fazbear is in the Honor and Glory Real-Time Indie deck.
What?
You won't see him, but Jack showed me. He's in there.
Freddy Fazbear is in. You know what? That doesn't even like surprise me. Okay, most annoying part about making a model was doing the UV textures for the planks here.
Oh yeah.
That was awful.
I'm glad
Especially
glad
this.
I'm not a modeler.
Like this
Yeah.
was How did I do it? I forgot. Okay, this here is like how I like because this is what I originally tried to do. I tried to just like make the UV texture bit on here, and then I just started wrapping, like creating a little like inset along here, like that, and then just UV unwrapping that there. But oh my gosh, so you can see like I'm gonna have to update it real like soon because there's some weird texture things going on like right here.
Yeah.
That I
Yeah.
gotta work on.
That's actually a good model though. Wow.
I'm really happy
Yeah.
with the portholes. The portholes are my favorite part.
Oh yeah.
That's actually cool.
And they're all like that too, which was not as awful as I thought. I thought it was gonna be horrendous to do, but
Wasn't too bad.
wasn't too bad. It's just a lot of it's a lot of this, like
Yeah.
grabbing it, insetting it, not that much. Grabbing it, insetting it, pressing E1, doing stuff like that. And then this here, I like this a lot. I did steal this from the demo 401. I did just take a picture and then put this into a normal map generator.
Ooh. Damn.
I did the same thing up here too.
That's a normal map. I wonder, can you put color in normal maps?
Well,
like yeah. That would be interesting to make those like color panels they do.
I want it, yeah.
Yeah.
What I did is I basically took the texture, turned it into a pure black and white image, like no gray, just black or white, and then put that into the normal texture, which is why like the flowers have normals on them. But from afar, you can't really tell, and it looks fine. I think the most hard thing was this, modeling this, which I'm gonna have to probably remodel because it does look very basic, but like nightmare.
All the winches, yeah.
I hate modeling winches. These are not mine. One of my friends gave me these. which is why they're
Oh.
way differently modeled.
Oh, there.
Something I like though is the texturing. The texturing makes the model every model look like it belongs to the model.
I really
You can
like
make-
my superstructure texture. I was really proud of that.
Yeah, that is really good.
Especially like the dirt here. I've always wanted to find a way to get the dirt there. That was way too complicated for me to figure out. Okay, we are at 2 minutes out.
It's like to the point of where Titanic was dirty, but it was not that dirty. So like the way your model portrayed it is perfect to what I see it being
Yeah.
like.
Oh, my mom's in the group. My mom's in the chat, and my dad. Oh, I love my family. They are like my mom and I were obsessed. We went to Ireland over this summer, like basically the whole freaking thing. And then
Yeah.
then my mom and I went up to Belfast for a week straight, and I think it was the best trip of my life.
Oh no, Belfast is very good. Like for anyone Titanic, it is the best thing you can do.
It was fantastic. In fact, I have an edited photo of me. I'll see if I can pull it up of before the.
Oh
time
yeah,
runs out.
I took a load today. I in the dry dock and the slipways. I actually got a lot of edited photos.
I got one of me looking out at the like past the dry dock, and I got the Titanic photo edited in there.
Oh yeah.
Do I have the edited photo or do I just have the original photo? I have 40 seconds to find it. Titanic hits the iceberg in the same amount of time they had to turn away from it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so hungry and now I'm
Oh, girl, I feel you. Oh my gosh, I'm
Oh,
really
that'll
racing
be-
against the clock right now. Oh my gosh. This ain't gonna happen. I'll find it later. Yeah, we're not doing this now. Okay, we're gonna move this over to here. Okay, 4, 3, 2, 1. The stream has started. The actual video this time.
There we go.
I'm gonna move my mouse over there so it just doesn't. Okay, the seagulls, the background of this.
Yeah,
I
just for the.
I spent 3 hours looking for one sound effect of a long time ambient waving sounds like in the ocean.
Oh no, water is so hard to get sound effects for.
I don't want the ocean crashing onto a beach. I want open
Yeah.
water.
Hello, I'm back.
Hello,
I just got 3 slices of cake because I just remember we had
3 slices of cake sounds delightful. How's the stream looking actually? Oh, it looks fine. I'm gonna turn the sound on this up just a tiny.
Yeah.
Because I don't want it to be overpowering, but I also don't want it to be completely silent. You know,
too loud, yeah.
With the lovely panning shot of the ship, and so while I was making my other real time for this year, I actually looked up and checked I thought the flags were waving out at like night. They took them.
Yeah,
down.
no, they were taken in. Yeah, they took them down.
You can see all the
You did
interiors that I rushed.
interior shots. That's interesting.
They are,
That's really...
you can tell which ones were made later and which ones were made earlier. That's all I'm gonna say.
Ooh.
Cool, bloody cool. You know, I can smell us, you know.
There's
What is
Murdoch on
there?
the bridge, the starboard bridge wing. He's looking out.
What?
Or no, wait, yeah, that is Murdoch. Never mind.
Yeah.
See, this video does not do it justice. You can obviously tell there's an iceberg.
Yeah.
In real life, it would have not been that obvious. In fact, it would have been so inobvious they wouldn't have seen it until 2 minutes from now.
Something I kind of hate with Blender is that you can tell reflective things. Like, you make something reflective and you look at it at a distance, you can clearly tell how it looks.
Oh, but it's so good. But it's so good.
yeah. I can't
Oh,
lie. It's
This
really
time
good.
now, pretty much everyone is asleep on Titanic. There's
Yeah.
little to no one is awake.
The reason why there's
Um,
all those lights are on is because those like double
Yeah.
lights that are up, like those two lights that are doubled, those are public spaces that would have been
Yeah.
closed,
Mhm.
just starting to close at this time.
The lounge, the first class reading and writing room, and the lounge would just have closed. They may have kept it open a bit longer, just if passengers were still writing letters.
I've gone with the
Then-
assumption that they did. I feel like they would have kept it open a bit
Yeah.
longer.
Ham Courts and Veranda Cafe would they would be closed. I think they closed at 11. The smoking room was still open, but
Yep.
there was very little people in it. But
Yeah.
due to the cold, no one was out on deck. The deck was deserted.
Oh, yeah, no, it
on the
looks-
whole day. Earlier that day, Titanic sailed through a patch of fog only for about 10 minutes, and then she sailed through rain. But just all day, the temperature dropped and dropped and dropped. Just all day, no one was out on deck on the 14th. It was just too cold to come out.
Felt like how I feel here in Minnesota. Just kept
Yeah.
going down. Yeah, like I thought to myself a bit ago, I was like, is the deck too empty? No, there was like less
Oh.
than there was less than 10 people
No,
total.
the
out
only
on deck.
the only people on the 14th, the only people on deck were crew.
Yeah.
No one else was brave enough to come out. They stayed in the warmth of the passenger
It's also, like,
accommodations.
almost midnight too, so
Yeah, but most people are asleep by this point. There's nothing. It's been Sunday. It's middle of the voyage. They're expected in New York by Wednesday, possibly Tuesday night. There's nothing to really stay awake for, so many of them are just gone to bed.
I would have been the person that's like, I'm going to bed at 8 p.m. I would have been.
Yeah,
I heard about a
Finished.
passenger who there was a crew member that tried to get him out of his room, and he said, "Don't do anything. Like it'll take more than an iceberg to get me out of bed."
Red Fleet.
Oh,
Fuck
hell.
there now. The end
Oh,
of the and Murdoch orders. It's possible that Murdoch spotted the bird before Fleet and Reginald Lee saw it, because Fleet said as he was on the phone to Murdoch, the ship was already turning.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
figured
more
that's
than
true.
likely. It's more than likely Murdoch seen the bird before.
And people don't realize, like, this is how fast it happened. It went from there's an iceberg to we're hitting it in 37 seconds.
If the bird was
Sure she
seen literally 5 seconds sooner, they would have gotten away. Like, it was so, like, the new scan showed the holes were about as thick as in one sheet of A4 paper. Like, they were tiny holes, and now Frederick Barrett is in boiler 6, and the water through 2 feet above the stokehold plate. The water just comes in a torrent through.
Literally, like it's torrential downpour. I mean, the thing that I like about the 1997 movie a lot is the fact that they get the
I was enjoying the
drama
drama
of
when I
this
was
scene
aroused by a sudden
pretty
shock and
accurate.
noise coming on the starboard
Yeah.
side.
Also, as
which
the
I at
bird
once
goes
concluded
by,
was
a
caused
lot
by
of
a
many
collision
portholes
with
are
another ship,
shattered, and
perhaps.
ice comes through the holes into the cabins.
and people are
It
like,
really
what the
depends where you are on the ship. If you were down low in the starboard side, forward starboard side, it felt like a crash. People thought they hit another ship. But if you're high up in the superstructure, A deck, B deck, C deck, it felt a little more than a bump.
You wouldn't. I bet
What-
like no one was woken up by it.
what-
None of the first class.
Yeah,
passengers.
the thing that woke the first class passengers up was actually the engines being stopped.
Yeah.
And then Smith comes out and he looks over the bridge wing.
Yep.
And now
He is
the
doing
water.
that in the animation. It's just hard to
It is,
see.
yeah. It is possible the watertight doors could have been closed by now. It's possible. It depends. Boxtel might have closed them.
I would say it's certain. I say that Murdoch they were a smart seaman. They knew what they were doing.
Murdoch probably closed them before. I'd say even possibly before the collision, they might have been ordered to be closed.
That seems like pretty reasonable, considering like, because I have a feeling once they saw it, they knew.
Yeah.
It was too late.
Like, people say, should have Murdoch ran straight into it? But if you are, like, people say, oh, he should have went straight into it, more chances of survival. He doesn't know that.
Yeah, logically, you would not do that. You would not be ramming a
Logically,
ship.
if you see something in front of you, instead of thinking, oh, I'm gonna hit it, I might as well go straight into it. No, you're gonna attempt to avoid it anyway.
Yeah, and that's like their knee-jerk reaction too. People are like not understanding. He had less than a minute to not only get the ship out of the way, but try to avoid a collision, and then not avoid a collision in the back half of the ship. He was not thinking about, I should ram it. Especially because it's the maiden voyage too. Not even to mention that.
Yeah. Now, Boxhall comes out on deck. While First Officer Murdoch and Captain Smith were on the starboard wing bridge discussing the collision, Boxhall, on his own initiative, as he said to the BBC in 1962, "Nobody told me to go,"
Yep, and
decides
that's
to go
included
forward
in
and
this.
inspect any possible damage. This is this quote from the US Inquiry. "I went right down below into the lowest steerage as far as I could possibly get without going into any cargo portion of the ship and inspected all the decks. As I came up, in the vicinity of where I thought she'd struck, I found no damage. I found no indication to show that the ship had damaged herself. On the inside, I went down to the steerage. I looked at all the decks. I worked my way up to the top deck into the forward part of the ship, that is, abreast of the number 2 and 3 hatches."
And I mean, where he's looking, there's not going to be anything. He was too high up. If he had gone down further, he would.
Where he was on the forward starboard side of F deck, so he was above where the collision took place, so he wouldn't have seen any flood. It was on the deck of the squash court.
Right here.
Then had to go down about 4 bridge ladders, you see, and I went forward in the entrance of the third class. These third class passengers, these southern European people, were streaming up the deck, and I went down below. I think it was 2 decks down as low as I could go without removing any hatches or anything. I went down to third class and crossed over to the starboard side, and I walked along there and looked into the cross passages. I couldn't hear any noise, I couldn't see any damage. Boxall now returned to the bridge and reported to the captain that I could not see any damage. In response, the captain said, "Go down and find the carpenter and get him to send the ship."
Yep.
I think we stayed on the bridge for just a moment or two, probably a couple of minutes, and he told me to find the carpenter and tell him to send the ship forward. Well, I didn't get down all the ladders to the foredeck. When I met the carpenter coming up, absolutely out of breath, he said, "Mr. Boxall," he said, "the forepeak hatch is blown off and number 1 tarpaulin is ballooning up." He said, "She's evidently making water fast." So I said, "All right, go up to the captain. He's on the starboard wing of the bridge, and go tell the captain." Now, at 11:50, the mailroom is known to be flooding. At around 11:50, Boxall goes back down for a second inspection. He recounted the following: "I thought I would go down forward again and investigate, and I met a mail clerk, a man named Smith. He asked where the captain was. He's on the bridge," he said. "The mail hold is filling up, or filling rapidly," I said. "Well, you go and report it to the captain. I will go down and see." And I proceeded right down to the mailroom. I went down as far as the sorting room deck and found mail clerks down there working, taking letters out of the racks. They seemed to me to be doing. I could not see what they were putting in them. I looked through the open door and saw these men working at the racks, and directly beneath me was the mail hold, and the water seemed to be then within 2 feet of the deck we were standing on, and the bags of mail floating about. I did not see water coming in. I said I could hear the water coming in. I was not standing in the sorting room, and the water was just then within 2 feet of the deck I was standing on. I could see it through the opening in the staircase which led down to the lower place. So now, by this point, Titanic also has a 5-degree list.
Yep. And that's something that a lot of people seem to forget about, is like, because when I first was researching the sinking, I was always like, well, if the ship hit the iceberg on the starboard side, why is there a report list? And then coming into further research, I realized there was a starboard list, and it actually was there for almost for almost half the sinking. There was a somewhat considerable degree.
As the flood started to equalize into the boiler rooms and over the other sides and comes into the third class cargo entrances, you start to equal out. But then once Scotland Road floods, you get this torrent of water.
It is a miracle the ship stayed upright. I think
it's insane that the ship actually stayed upright. Like how she didn't capsize.
That never happened. Insane.
There is no existing photos of the carpenter, right?
I don't know. I believe his name is something Hutchinson.
There's like some officer or like crew member that there's literally no existing photo of them, only descriptions. Just kind of...
I don't see a photo on his page on the Encyclopedia Titanica, but that's also the
Who are we talking about? The carpenter?
I believe he does have a photo.
But the carpenter is Thomas Andrews. Thomas Andrews was also known as the ship's carpenter. Ship's designer, ship's carpenter, he was known as that.
That's true.
But at this point now, some passengers that were woken would start to come up on deck, and also third class passengers were seen down in the forward cargo hold, playing with ice, and Boxall goes down and he takes it off them.
You can already see the boreholes going under at this point.
Steam also starts to be getting released from the funnels. That's pretty much straight after the collision.
Yeah, we had that happen in 11:43, I think that's right.
Yeah.
Very, very loud steam.
Yeah,
It was
the video has
passengers were
considerably
quiet in their
toned it down.
cabins, but crewmen struggled to communicate on deck. Poor start to what will soon be an evacuation.
Oh,
I would
yeah.
say the evacuation was a little bit.
Lawrence Beasley recalled that the steam. If one imagines 20 locomotives blowing off steam in a low key, that would give us some idea of the unpleasant sound that met us as we climbed out onto the top deck. So, getting the boat swung out was a very vocal thing. You needed to be shouting orders to get even lines, even weight getting put out. This was impossible now with the sound of steam. Even Harold Bryan and Jack Phillips couldn't even hear themselves think in the Marconi room. Never mind send out messages.
Jack and Rose are making their way back up after they saw the iceberg hit. That was a close one.
Ooh.
Something that
This reminds me of like a time where I thought the 1987 movie was real time. Oh my god.
Yeah, I also thought it was real time, and then I watched it and I was like, it's only an hour-ish. The sinking part is only about an hour and a half. But also it makes sense why they would do that. Like, you've got 2 hours of the ship basically out of the upright out of the water, and then you've got 20 minutes of it actually, sinking in a way Hollywood audiences would have liked. So.
Yeah, and then he just left because he went to sleep.
Yep.
Now it's just us and Titanic.
Us and Titanic. So Vauxhall's been sent back down, roughly around this point to go to do a second inspection.
That's what Danny said, and he found like the mailroom flooded, right?
Yeah, the mailroom was flooded. We had a little clip of that on the stream.
You see the live stream. Let me try. Night. Where is?
So another a misconception that people seem to think about the ship was the funnels, and them being lit up at night, because that is what's depicted in the 1997 movie. The funnels are lit.
There's like a bunch of scenes where there is extra lights added to the scenes for easier viewing of the ship.
The funnels, even in this animation, are too well lit. I just did that so that I could, for audience sake. But the lights at the bottom of them, they would have been somewhat illuminated. I mean, they're not going to be completely black because there's too much light.
Yeah.
But they would not have been as bright as they are in the movie. They wouldn't have had the lights at the bottom looking up. That just wouldn't have.
Now the thing is, now imagine. Good evening. Now imagine it with the 1997 movie where you.
So the ship has already struck the iceberg.
Yeah, we're about 11 minutes in.
A bunch of this artificial light to
my animation is still rendering.
Oh
gosh. It's lovely.
Lovely.
Like I finally just got it in the rendering process, like literally earlier.
Oh my gosh, rendering animations of a ship sinking that are 3 hours long is not for the faint of heart. It is not fun, but it is worth it.
Yeah, especially at this time. I'm glad my mother respects the fact that I'll be staying up at 4 because she knows I take this stuff personally.
Oh, my mom and dad are like, they were just watching the stream. So yeah, we've got the mailroom flooding, the steam is venting, the ship is at a 5-degree list to starboard. It hit the iceberg 12 minutes ago. Vauxhall is on a second inspection of the forward holds after he came up and said there's nothing. Captain Smith is on the bridge. He's just chilling. I think in my animation, I don't really move him from the bridge ever again. He kind of just stays there the rest of the animation.
It's neat that I'm in one of the live streams, one of the 3 live streams that I'm watching right now.
Yeah, there are a few going on right now.
I have the one that I'm in right now, which is your stream. I'm watching THG on a small window, and I'm watching Part-Time Explorer on my TV.
It's a very, like, there's a lot of boats today. A lot of boats. A lot of the same boat, actually.
We
A
came
lot
quite
of the
prepared.
same boats.
Well, it's actually not a boat, it's a ship. Oh.
Yeah. It's that one thing that I want to correct people with, but I don't want to be called a nerd.
Oh, I call it a boat as a joke. I think it's funny.
Sometimes it's painful.
Oh, it's painful when not Titanic nuts say it's a boat. Because we can call it a boat. We've put in the time, the effort, the blood, sweat, tears, and ice. We've done all that.
Called it boat. I mean, survivors even called it the big boat. So.
Yeah. Oh my gosh! And like the little kid who gave his testimony at the inquiry, he called it the lovely Titanic.
I remember that. Yeah.
He did. He was like 7, I think. Or no, he was 5, I think. Ava Hart was 7.
Ooh.
Gotcha. We have like alternate timelines going on because they're all different animations.
Yeah, you've got the complete Titanic timeline.
Titanic Trinity.
The Titanic, the lore, the in-depth, complete Titanic lore. See, the problem is with my new model, I'm cringing looking at some of the things on this model, like the wires holding up the funnel stays don't have supports on the bottom. They just kind of clip through the floor. Ignore that.
I like on how like Huh?
You go ahead.
I like on how those at THG, they're saying that we would love to be Ken Marshall one day, and we were watching Ken Marshall on Part-Time Explorer stream.
Oh, I love Ken Marshall. Oh gosh, I want to meet Ken Marshall at some point before I die.
Yeah, it'd be so good.
Before I die. So yeah.
Imagine a live stream where all of the Titanic icons are all in one call. Ken Marshall, like TAG, all of us. Imagine all of us in one call. Imagine the chaos.
There would be a lot of shouting.
That'd be quite the roster.
Don't ever put a bunch of niche historians or researchers into a single group together. They will kill each other.
We all start attacking the. We all start attacking Part-Time Explorer for the 4th funnel falling.
Oh gosh, that's like the. You'd probably attack me for the fact that I got the half a timeline wrong in the video, probably. This is Boxall, by the way, making his way up after his 2nd inspection, going, "Hey, so the ship is sinking."
I mainly do like the last like 8 minutes of the sinking, so yeah. I really want to change the name of my channel, Titanic Ship Studies, because it's quite misleading. I want to change it to my character's name or something, but I literally did a poll, and it just says don't change it.
See, I forgot I changed this sound effect. The one from the movie. There are some mixtures of, I think almost every movie is represented here. The 2012 miniseries is the Iceberg Sound. The Night to Remember is the Iceberg Right Ahead, like the actual call. 1997 movie has stuff all over. And then a lot of sound effects. You can already tell the ship is tilting forward just ever so slightly.
Yeah, I'm able to tell.
About 1 degree at this point. It's like the ship is stopped. They do have the engines going up about dead ahead for a few. Like dead slow ahead for just like a few minutes, maybe like 5 minutes, and then once they had more confirmation that the ship was really sinking, they just decided to turn off the engines for good.
No way, I can actually hear myself on the stream. No way.
Isn't that lovely?
Isn't that lovely?
The stream is actually pretty up to date, which is surprising.
Well,
steam, we already talk't about this a bit, but the steam would have been completely deafening. You're not hearing anything.
Yeah. Imagine how hard it must have been to Boxhall and Captain Smith to talk to each other
Well,
in that
Lightoller,
moment.
at around this point-ish, a little bit later, like I'd say about 10 minutes from now, he did have to cup his hands and shout directly into Captain Smith's ear as loud as he could, saying, "Should I get the women and children into the boats, sir?"
Women and children first. Yes.
And yeah, so now they're uncovering the lifeboats, the magical people that appear instantly. Who
They just
uncovered
spawn.
the lifeboat covers. In my animation, the lifeboat covers do take a bit of a shorter time to be uncovered. That was partly because I very, very smartly decided to do the entire animation for the lifeboats in one day.
Oh,
So I was pretty fed up at this point.
THD, they're showing interior shots. It's quite ominous. Like to just wake up, you just see like water all around you.
Oh my gosh, when did we get started? I would hate this. A lot of people
Especially-
did not want to leave the ship at this point. At all.
I mean, who can blame them? It's literally the middle of the night. Like you're all cozy. The engine stopped, which is like the one thing that put many people to sleep because of how comfortable it was.
It's a nice little rumble.
Yeah.
This this white noise from the steam is not. See, it's nice here in our live stream. It's not exactly the
Okay.
nicest in real life. It actually was pretty horrible to listen to.
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think headphones can fix that. Not even my AirPods.
Oh my
matter
God,
how-
not even- Yeah.
No matter
Not
how
even-
much you listen to rock music, Titanic will always be louder.
And they did not have AirPods at this time, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
they've got the quiet melodies of the ship's band, which hasn't started playing yet.
Oh man.
Oh, it's so satisfying. I just watched my clock tick over to 9:58 p.m. right as this ticked over to 12 a.m. It's midnight now. It's April 15th over there.
Titanic is greater than New Day in the Atlantic. It is still 10:58 p.m. where I am.
It's 9:58 p.m. where I am.
Being a Florida man, we all time travel. I like to go back in time.
I go all the way back to the Titanic. Actually, I've actually been there in person. I am the carpenter that they sent down to check the foxhole.
Oh man.
It was flooding a lot. It was also very cold. But yeah, so I mean, right now, commentating on a ship sinking is, there's points where it's very, very, you know, entertaining, and then there's points
Yeah.
where it's not. This is one of those. The lifeboats
So-
don't start being launched until about 12:50,
Which is 1 hour from now.
which is about an hour.
You just
from
gotta
now.
appreciate the ASMR from how loud the funnels are.
The funnels are delightfully loud. In fact, they're so loud that they are people are refusing to go outside. They did not want to leave because you could hear it in your room. If you were in your room, you could probably hear the steam.
Funnel. The funnels are just bass boosted.
And it's almost 12 p.m. for me right now.
And one thing that Ken Marshall said, like even at like 6 degrees, people could get really used to that angle.
Well, yeah, because the ship's shear line too is not helping. The curve up and down, the curve that goes up on either end, you know, that negates all the feeling of it tilting forward because you just don't notice it. The ship's been curving up. You're not going to notice if it's now flat and level with the sea. And the problem is, once they started noticing it, half the lifeboats were gone.
But yeah, this was terrifying.
At this point, Boxhall, he goes around. He wakes up the officers because Lightoller had gone back to bed. He was woken up at about this time-ish. He also woke up Pittman, I believe. No, Pittman was awake. He went and woke up Moody and Lowe as well. We just kind of going in, going, hey, there's a collision. They got the boats out. You should probably deal with that.
Well, it sucks that Dan, like everyone else is just asleep. It's just us.
Oh, people will be coming in. I already know. Oh, never mind. I was gonna give a thing. So yeah, this is the squash court. We're on G deck right now.
Cool.
And
Oh, that's cool.
It's funny.
it's
Looks
flooding.
like a frying pan.
Very, very cold water into the squash.
Yeah, I don't mind it. You can really see the angle the ship is listing now. I'm surprised people didn't comment on this more. People commented on the port list a lot, but not quite on the starboard list. You can see the lights off in the distance.
It's California.
It's the California. Those are the two masthead lights of the Californian who are seeing the Titanic and they're going, huh.
Oh, there she is. I had to lower the THD stream.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm trying to figure out which stream is the loudest.
Ooh.
I think Part-Time Explorer is winning.
Ours is pretty quiet, I think.
Like the quietest here is THD's. Let me I think that's as max volume as I can put it. I have like how many boarding passes do I have? I have 6, and one of them keeps falling over because why not?
My collection is very big, I would say. I have a little too much stuff. I have a piece of coal. Everyone has that. From the Titanic. I also have a piece of the wooden deck up by the port side bridge wing. It was found floating in the water, turned into a shelf, and then we bought it on I forgot his name, but he's a very kind of huge name in terms of artifact collection. I have a 2-pound board or chunk of the wooden deck from the Olympic, which has the rivet holes in it actually, which is my favorite artifact I have. I was in Belfast. I have a piece of the gantry davit, or the aero gantries. It was on the ground. I just picked it up and took it. And then there was also a piece.
You just cook it?
It was on the ground. It was on the ground. It was just.
You just said.
I said yoink.
Screw it.
And then there was also a piece of the Thompson dry dock on the ground that I snatched because they're gonna really get mad at me for taking a rock.
Congratulations, you broke the law.
I have, yeah, it's okay. They can't get mad at me.
They can't get mad at you. Once they see this stream, they're gonna find out.
Yeah, because they're gonna see the stream, alright. Yeah, that's what we gotta worry about.
Have fun.
But yeah, that's my total collection of Titanic stuff. I also have some other random historical artifacts, like a piece of the Berlin Wall and ash from Mount St. Helens.
Whoa.
Pretty fun, pretty cool.
When it comes to all the Titanic stuff I have, most of them are like ship kits. I have like a Lego Titanic that I made myself. You know, the one that I used before animation. Before I started using animation is that one, Lego Titanic. The formal star of my channel.
How things down below, and Andrew said she's going.
And then I have 2 submersible models, which are from Print Hive. One of them used to have a battery. And then I have 3 other ones. And then I have an armada of books.
I have many books. 1 second.
The one that I'm holding my phone with for support is honestly of glass. This is the most casual April night.
Not the most, because the ship is sinking. But yeah.
Yeah. For us historians. Like for us people who... I wouldn't call it a casual April night. Like this is an important night, a very important night. If I remember, I might be wrong, but I think I remember Danny explained to me, like in Ireland, they take the Titanic very seriously. They gather around and have candles, and they mourn. I think at like 11:40 p.m.
What's up?
I said I may be wrong, but Danny explained to me, if I remember this, is what he said, that in Ireland they take this pretty seriously.
No.
That they gather around, and they have candles and they mourn.
In Belfast,
And
they
if
do.
I remember, in Belfast.
In Belfast, they do.
All right, so I was right about that. My memory wasn't faulty.
Nope. Why is one lifeboat lower than the other, Harry?
Good question.
Well, that's a problem.
Hypothetical person. You wanna know why?
That lifeboat is lower because they said we need to get people on a deck who are on a deck into a lifeboat. Well, fun fact about the little windows on the side, those were glass. They actually were windows, but they could be rolled down. And so they had the lifeboat there to get people into it. Only problem is the crank needed to lower down those windows was not to be found. They could not find it for a very long time. So that lifeboat was not launched for a hot minute. I believe Madeline Astor was in that, entered that lifeboat.
It's so strange, like seeing 3 live streams, and all that's going on is the exact same event that's going on, like right now. That would presumably be going on right now, historically. Like for me, it's just awesome. We have thousands of people gathering together to commemorate. Like in THG, they're doing this on the Queen Mary, and they have a crowd there.
Yeah. What's really funny, I'm watching their live stream, and their live stream and my live stream are at roughly the same angle, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of the same angle.
They have 5.8 thousand people. We have, I believe, 7.
Seven.
Seven people.
Yikes.
Nah, that's what I was expecting. People are out
One
now.
thing that is, oh, they're coming. They're coming. Cape Order here.
So I did,
Everyone,
in fact, people now were coming onto the deck. They had their life belts on. People were like, I don't want to be here. And the officer says, get up on deck. You're needed there. It's a little important that you go on deck. And they were like, oh, fine. So that's why
Just
they're
like,
out.
fine.
I mean, that's what they said. They went, oh.
We're on a ship that's insane.
You have a bunch of snobby rich people. They're not going to want to go on deck. But, you know, they didn't just hang around the lifeboats the whole time. They didn't wander over it. Some of them probably noticed the list and were like, what's going on? Some of them also most likely saw the iceberg on the floor well back. In fact, I believe a survivor counted that she saw that.
Oh, there's more people. Coming now. The one thing that we all have in common, animating people is hell. Animating people is literal hell.
Yes, it's not fun.
It is not fun. Especially when Blender starts to act funny and you can only put them on very specific angles before they move. Like somewhere where you're not supposed to, it just all goes to a mess.
While I'm currently making my real time, I can't animate the bow section without directly manipulating the exact coordinates, like the exact rotation and all that. I can't just like press R or G because it teleports to like some random part of the map.
Oh man, it sucks.
It's fine. I already have it. I already animated it.
Another part that was difficult to animate was the davits, not the davits, the shrouds on the funnels.
Yes.
It's kind of agony.
The lifeboats are the most tedious for me. I would never like doing lifeboats because the way Blender works is you cannot keyframe or animate the parent system. So I have to use a constraint, which means that it is technically it thinks it's at its original position when I put the constraint on it, which is not where the lifeboats are at this moment. So they kind
Well,
of.
thankfully I don't animate lifeboats.
I do.
Well, the only 2 boats that are that I animate are boats A and B, and that's because they're getting washed away from the ship when the first funnel falls.
You can't really avoid it.
And like, yeah, you can't. It's inevitable to at least animate one or two boats.
So Captain Smith went on an investigation of himself, a very thorough investigation after Vauxhall. I told him, hey, the ship's kind of flooding. He concluded that, yes, the ship is very much flooding. So at the beginning of the collision, one officer who was at the very front of the ship noticed that there was a lot of air escaping out of a vent coming from the very prow, which would only be happening if the ballast tank at the very front of the ship was being flooded. Then another officer had seen the mailroom, Vauxhall saw the mailroom, and then the squash court was flooding. Someone else noted the flooding of the squash court. Somebody said that they saw the boiler room flooding, and so slowly the pieces started to come together, and it started to become apparent that not one but 6 compartments had been breached. Which is
there was if I remember, I don't remember his name, but he was at like the very front of the bow forecast, like at the peak tank, and he heard like some high.
Yeah, I just
like,
mentioned
whiskey.
that. Yeah, it was one of the
Oh my
seamen.
god, I misheard you.
There's second class coming out now. If you're curious why this angle is here. I'll see you in just a second.
I guess I'm mishearing things because there's like 3 streams going on. Okay, so they face through the wall.
They do in fact face through the wall.
We had special abilities back then. Were they the Flash? Did they have to like phase through the wall? Did they have to vibrate that fast?
We're at the very front of the ship now, the very prow. No one's here. No one will really be here.
12:14 a.m.
15. It just switched. Like, just as you said
Oh,
that
okay.
swap, it switched. That's kind of funny.
It's 12:14 in part-time explorers time.
Well, I clicked mine right as the second changed. You can already look at the F deck portholes.
Ooh.
Yeah, those are going down.
Epic.
So the ship was really
Yeah, they're
quickly
going.
sinking at first. Then it reached its equilibrium, which would have saved it if it had not flooded up to 6 compartments. And the rate of sinking dramatically slows. It stays at about this angle, going down very slowly for about an hour, right up until the E deck porthole.
Just a little while before they were ready
under.
to swing out, I happened to meet the captain. And I asked
One
him,
idea that was brought
by
up
cupping my hand
at
over
the
his
team back in
ear
2012,
and yelling
the
at the
Dream
top of
Team,
my voice,
remember from the final word,
"Shall I get the women and
an idea
children
that was
away?"
thought of that they could have stopped the ship
He just
like
nodded.
temporarily from sinking,
So I started to fill the
or
first
for a
hole.
longer
Is
period
this
of
the
time,
mattress
or
thing?
not sink at all. I was thinking about the life jacket thing.
Oh yeah, no, they could not have done that. The water was flooding at a rate of 14 feet per minute per every 10 minutes.
Yeah, they had to speed run that, but
That
it was
would not have
too
happened.
much.
They would have died if they had tried.
Yeah.
You just missed it, but the light hauler, he's at this point saying, "Women and children in the boats, please."
Women and children only.
He had asked Captain
Well,
Smith if he should get the women and children in the boats, and Captain Smith said women and children first, to where he was like, okay, women and children only. Murdoch took the rule probably how it was intended, with women and children first. So Lighthauler kind of became a little bit of a character during this, because he did not allow men in at all. Even if the boats were half full, he would launch them half full, which he was a great officer, and that's one of the things that kind of downplayed his reputation during the sinking, was that
Yeah, like one of the things as well, that causes unnecessary deaths. There's so many boats that could have carried so many more.
Here's the pool.
The swalt. Wow, my English is leaving me.
The saltwater
Dyslexia
pool.
comes at a certain age. The saltwater pool. Thank you.
A heated saltwater pool, which is, yes, in fact, it is in fact still full of water to this day. Another fun fact though about the pool, is the fact that we don't know what's in it. We don't know what the pool looks like because the watertight door, which is just out, not the door that we're looking at, but there's a door right outside of this in that hallway there, is closed. A steward came in and closed it, and it is permanently sealed off the pool. So we have no clue what the pool looks like right now on the wreck. I am a bit of an optimist. Judging by the way the Turkish baths look, I'm gonna assume that the pool is probably in a very good condition.
I'm not joking at all either.
I think the pool is in good condition.
I didn't do anything that harsh to it. Oh, sorry, my bad.
Oh. Whoa.
I do say, I think I'm one of the few people that has actually included a pool flooding scene. I could be wrong.
One of the pools is actually very cool. Did you include the portholes?
Yeah.
Oh.
You just can't see them. I wish the camera would pan a little bit over, but no, yeah. If you're curious where the pool is, if you look at where the two rows of the where the two kind of like portholes that are stacked on top of each other, where that is, go directly down, it's about there.
Yep. Would the lights be on though?
The pool lights, probably not. Maybe. It really just depends on if they had actually turned off the lights, because the space was definitely closed, but the lights could have still stayed on.
Imagine that haunting side of the pool and just the sound of water rushing in.
Luckily, there was no one in there, so.
Yep.
That's good.
It is 11:17 where I'm at. The ship would strike the iceberg at around my time soon. This is the thing to consider. Like, we had Titanic sinking North Atlantic time, and here we have the Titanic striking the iceberg almost at my time. So the ship is gonna die twice. Oh, Denny.
Danny has returned.
Oh. You're muted.
His wisdom.
Welcome.
Oh my god, hello. Is my mic bad?
Hello.
It's jealous statement. He's with us.
Hi, chat. Is my mic bad?
It is very muffled.
You're very muffled, my guy.
You texted me.
Very bad indeed. Hold on. I don't have a good mic right now. It's very bad.
It's okay, I forgive you. The Titanic did not have a very good mic.
Yeah.
What?
I know.
was
Actually,
screaming
I
that.
don't think there were many microphones on the Titanic, so you're in the clear.
They did have a Marconi set that I would like to have like a replica of in my room so I could just like on the daily. Who needs Discord when you can just do Marconi?
So
What are more stories?
having listened to so many songs written by these people, like from the Titanic, being a music major, it's really helped with knowing what songs are named and all that, because, you know, here at where I go to school, people play this music. Kind of.
Some nice ragtime music.
Don't look at the windows.
What's going on with
Just don't look at them.
I'm about to watch.
Oh,
Don't look at them.
I just hop in the
Elevators. Very, very well modeled elevators that I'm going to remodel when I'm modeling Escalating.
such amazing
interior part.
What did you say?
I
Like
like
the interior.
You can hear it.
Oh.
Titanic is taking her sweet time to expel out of that air. All the steam.
It took about an hour for the steam to be
An hour?
To be fully.
Oh, yeah,
It took a long time. It was not quick.
Alright.
like 10. I see 10 people on the stream.
And there's 10.
Let me see how far my... Oh, huh? He said that he'll return.
He shall return. I love Discord.
I'll be right back.
This is taking... My animation is taking painfully long to render.
Now you've got 3 live streams to watch. You're fine.
I have 3 lives. I'll be fine. What's cool is that I'm watching this on my phone, but as well as on the PC, so I might record like the final punch, like on all 3 of them. But it depends on which Titanic is gonna sink first.
Probably mine.
Because
Mine's a bit earlier. About 2:14. That's what I say, but I'm gonna probably move that up to 2:15.
Wait, like which one they sinks fully?
No, like the final punch starts at 2:14.
Oh, okay. I was about to say if the you make the ship fully sink at 2:15.
No, it's a little early.
It's slightly early, 8 minutes early.
Which is a long time in terms of final punch, because I think this ship was gone in about 5 minutes after the final punch started. But that's for later. That's in an hour. That's in 2 hours.
Is it just me, or am I hearing Danny?
You might be hearing people talking. That is in fact what's going
The
on.
voices.
Well, there's people talking.
It's the voices.
in the video.
Thomas Andrews informs Captain Smith of the situation. According to his calculations, Titanic will sink in an hour and a half. She lasted longer.
It lasted longer. Yep. He thought it was gonna sink in about an hour and a half, and it sank in almost 3.
Yeah.
But I think it's better that he gave him a quicker amount of time for the ship to sink than he gave him it's gonna sink in 4 hours, and then 4 hours later the ship's gone and there's no one in the lifeboats.
She was given more. She needs to be given more than what Andrews gave her credit for. And as well as and especially those who tried their best to keep the lights on and stuff. Everyone played a factor.
So every time we kind of do another swing shot of the bow like this, I always notice the portholes are quite low.
Lower. Yeah, they're getting lower.
So at this time, Captain Smith is going into the Marconi office and he commands Jack Phillips, the senior officer, and Harold Bride, who is the junior wireless officer, to begin sending out CQD, which is the old distress signal. Used at the time. Titanic was not the first ship to use SOS. It was actually close to the 3rd ship, but it was still very early, and it kind of made the term SOS famous.
Yeah, she was one of the earliest ships to have that technology.
The Republic was the first, which sank in 1906. But Titanic began sending out CQD messages. Another kind of fun fact, the Frankfurt, which was a German ship, which was about, I'd say 90 miles away, it was its Marconi wireless machine wasn't really working properly at this time, so it was receiving delayed messages. So Titanic was already fully underway near sinking when Frankfurt had received the initial distress signals. There was a lot of confusion. Yeah, La Provence and Mount Temple, they both pick up the distress calls. They're both about 100 miles away. They cannot help. The only ship really within a reasonable distance is the Carpathia, which hasn't received its distress messages yet, and the California, which has its wireless machine turned off. Kind of a sucky situation.
Yeah.
However, the situation actually could have been a whole lot worse. The reason why Jack Phillips told the California to shut up was because on the 13th, the wireless machine actually broke. Like on the 12th, the very evening of the 12th, the wireless machine stopped sending and receiving messages. And one of the rules in the Marconi wireless rulebook was to not try to repair the wireless machine until you had reached the port, because you need an electrician to be doing it. However, Jack Phillips and Harold Bride disregarded this rule, and they disregarded the rule and actually managed to get it fixed. On the 13th, it was up for about 49 hours. So, if Phillips had not repaired that, the Titanic would not have a distress signal right now. There would be no distress signal. So, good job on him for doing that. However, it is a little bit of a problem that he did tell the Carpathia or the California to shut up. Just a lot of things going wrong over and over again.
He was tired. I don't blame him. But like, it's always best to maintain your composure because of that. The Californian just said, "All right, screw you. Have a good night."
Yep.
We all know what would happen. If I remember, the part that was faulty on the Marconi was the transformer.
Yep, the transformer had turned off. So the Titanic was not receiving or sending anything because the transformer was turned off. They couldn't receive a signal. That's different from the Britannic, which could send out messages while it was sinking but could not receive. Titanic would have been completely silent if it had not been for Phillips and Bragg actually repairing it. So good on them.
Yeah.
They did in fact save hundreds of lives.
Indeed. There's so many things that could have made it a lot worse.
There's also so many things
Mother
that could
Nature
have made it not happen. Titanic is the situation of worst case scenarios and near misses, I'd say.
Yeah. But now she is an absolute point of time. She is now known as a life lesson.
Right.
A hard one.
Here's the poop deck. Lovely.
In that lesson, it costed 1,496 lives for this lesson to teach the world.
Well, you know what they say, the law of the ocean is, the maritime law is written in the blood of those who died at sea, so that's the only way the maritime law can get changed, because you never know if it could happen until it does.
Yeah, they're random. It's very sad that it has to be that way. $11.29 on my end.
10:29.
Where's my Titanic plushie? Oh yeah. Why are you on the bed? Come here. Oh, sorry, I have a Titanic plushie in my bed.
Titanic plush?
Yes.
I didn't even know there was a-
She has a horn. In the Titanic Museum in Tennessee, it has a horn feature.
Oh my gosh. What about George Hogg made his way to the boat deck? Yep, Lifeboat 7 is going to be launched pretty soon, in about 14 minutes-ish. One second.
This plush has an orange anti-fouling instead of red.
So, something I really like about this animation is the fact that it's bright enough to see all the icebergs all over the place. In real life, that would have not happened. However, if it were brighter out, you would have noticed hundreds of them all over the place.
It would have made it easier
But
to spot.
my father went away and spoke to an officer, and he said,
Oh,
there are maintenance
Kevin Hart.
lifeboats, but
Kevin
you
Hart.
have
Wow,
all
Eva
the
Hart. Okay.
And here was
Eva Hart. I accidentally said Kevin Hart. My bad.
So if you look at the port side bridge wing, you'll notice it's flashing. Officer Boxall noticed the lights on the horizon. Officers of the ship had noticed that there's lights, and they attempted to signal those lights by using their beacon on the port bridge wing and flashing it. The Carpathia the Californian did not see them. I don't believe, or they did, but they didn't recognize them. Anyways, they weren't getting closer.
I don't know what it was. Bless you.
Thank you.
What throws me off is that this plush, it has an orange anti-fouling and not red.
I feel like a plush of the Titanic is in and of itself pretty cursed.
Yeah.
Oh, I see exactly what you're seeing. I'm on the Facebook page for it. It's got the word Titanic written in Arial font on the side.
This goober's adorable. When I saw it in the museum, I'm just like, yes. Without question, I immediately did.
Lovely music. So it's my favorite part of making these videos is the nice, delightful music.
Nice ragtime.
Shane, the ship is, my friend is in the chat. The ship is clearly, it's doing pretty good right now. I'd say we're okay.
She only has so much left.
You can see the lights on the horizon off the port bridge wing there. That is the Californian, no doubt about it. So there's some debate about whether or not it was, but it's the only ship that was nearby that could have actually seen the Titanic, and they said they saw a ship on the horizon.
Gotcha.
So it's pretty good evidence that that was the Californian.
It is 11:33 where I'm at.
You can see just barely the propellers are starting to come out of the water, just a teeny bit.
Sorry, yeah, they're starting to make themselves known. Like people, like when it comes to like how long it took, 2 hours and 40 minutes. Like when you're experiencing it, it is not that slow. It is pretty dang fast.
Yeah, especially if you're like walking around and stuff.
Yeah.
You would that's why a lot of people, they went down to below deck to get things, they come back up and all the lifeboats are gone. That's just how time flew at this point. Sitting in a chair watching an animation makes it feel like it's a lot longer, but you don't really realize it until you're there.
Yeah. And it's starting to go really fast because the only times I watch a real time fully that isn't simply the final plunge is during the anniversary.
Yeah, me too. Something interesting, the flight to go home for me, because I'm in Minnesota, the flight home is 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Oh my.
So Officer Boxall gives Captain Smith an updated position because he's super smart like that. And that position is actually the very famous position that the Titanic was sending out, which is about 14 miles off of where they actually were. However, Officer Lowe, who was in a lifeboat, which is going to come later, he had I believe he had a green flare, which he waved around, and the Carpathia noticed the green flare and mentioned, went over to that.
They're starting to show the Carpathia in the THG stream. and in part-time explorer, they're starting to use the Morse lamp.
Well, we did start to just use that in our stream too. So far we're pretty equal there.
Pretty equal in time.
Carpathia has picked up Titanic's distress calls. 4 hours.
Barely.
They had. Titanic has less than 2. So you can really start to see the downward list here. The forward pitch is, I'd say, about 3 degrees down at this point. Still not enough for people on board to notice anything. Maybe some of the astute might have, like the very detail-oriented people who might have noticed this. They might have been like, oh, the ship is listed. But especially now, because the starboard list is starting to kind of even itself out just a tiny bit, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, and it would start to get hard to stand properly as well. Like later down the road, quickly down the road. And they don't have the materials to do a microjectine, so and especially when it comes to the shoes that were like on how they were made back then, it's kind of slippery.
Well, if you have a wet deck and it's tilting downward and you're in dress shoes, it's not exactly the most optimal frictionful surface to be stepping on. Lifeboat 7 is almost about to be launched. Not a lot of people no one wants to go on the lifeboats, especially at this point. It's cold, it's dark, they're in the middle of nowhere. There's no apparent danger. No one's really like, no one thinks there's anything wrong. The ship is warm, the ship is bright, and there was actually a situation I mentioned earlier with the Republic. Was a White Star Line ship that hit some shore and sunk, and everyone who entered lifeboats actually died in the sinking, but those who stayed on board all lived because of the Marconi wireless mission. Well, people were thinking about that during the Titanic. They were like, I don't want to go in this lifeboat. I've heard so many stories. So most of them were launched half full. I believe only like 2 were launched at capacity, and those were way too late.
Around this time, the Baltic has her Titanic's distress call, but she's too far away as well, like other ships.
I believe maybe Olympic even has picked up Titanic signal at this point.
Yeah. Require immediate assistance. We have collision, iceberg sinking. We can hear nothing but noise of steam.
So right now we are centering up onto the lifeboats here. Lifeboat 7, 3, 5, and 1 from the back to front. Lifeboat 7 is launched first with about, I'd say, I think, what is it, 27, 28 people? 26? It'll tell me, I think. That's not even close to full.
Yeah. Like, so many unnecessary deaths. It's sad. Like, they could have fit so many more people.
There's a Titanic Historical Society, or Titanic's Instagram page I follow. They just posted a photo of the lifeboats being launched.
Oh, everyone's watching the same event. It's kind of crazy.
I later want to watch the National Geographic documentary and see, oh boy, that breakup.
Yeah, the breakup animation they picked, it's a little bit too much. So the problem with taking just pure survivor accounts is the fact that people are going to remember things wrong, especially because of how dark it was. However, that doesn't mean we completely disregard them, but we don't only use the survivor accounts as a 100%, this is factually true basis, when talking about the ship sinking itself.
The first boats away didn't have
my friend Cece, she joined the stream. Hey, Cece!
70-foot drop to the water, and they didn't think she was going to sink. And a few of the first boats on the port side got away with half filled.
But yeah, it's best to combine physics and survivor accounts when talking about the sinking itself, but when talking about events happening, like the lifeboats, the water, those who are shutting the doors, those who are doing specific things, that's more where we take in survivor accounts.
Oh, it's 11:40. The ship on my area, the ship has struck the berg.
Yeah, but in actuality, the ship is doing this. At this point, Benjamin Guggenheim this is the point now where he says we are dressing our best and prepare to go down like gentlemen. People like to say that it happens a lot later, but it was actually at about this time.
Yeah. But I would like a branding.
I think, did he say that in real life? I don't know.
I'm sorry, I only know the line. No.
I kind of wish it would.
Give time machines. Give our technology like at least a few more years and we all have time travel.
Yeah, so Lifeboat 7 is being launched. People really don't like it. It's rickety. In fact, if you look at the davits, not in this animation, but if you were there, you would see them flexing and bending slightly against the weight of the lifeboats and the rickety ropes. It was just not a fun time to be in the lifeboat at this time, and no one wanted to go in there.
Yeah, like the ship looked so much safer. The ship looks so much safer.
I mean, at this point, at this times, right now, it probably was. But, you know, give it an hour, that's going to be a different story. Give it 2 hours and there is no more ship. Now how low in the water it is.
Yeah, and she's starting to move away from her she's starting to even out from her starboard list and starting to drift, go into port.
Yep. I mean, at this point too, the sinking has slowed down a lot, so people aren't no longer noticing it. Not to mention, yeah, the list is being kind of fixed at this point. However, if you were very observant, if you were on a lifeboat, you could definitely now start to see the significance and the gravity of the situation, watching the portholes going down, because people could see the portholes going down as they were going down the lifeboat.
Yeah, I can see how fast it's going. It's kind of unnerving.
So, there wasn't a lifeboat drill. On April 14th, there was supposed to be a lifeboat drill, but for reasons that probably will never be known, probably combining the speed that they were going, the scheduling, and as well as just the lack of an apparent need, they did not have their scheduled lifeboat drill. So officers who were, you know, seamen who had never been on a ship before didn't really know how to operate these lifeboats, especially because these davits were new. The Welland davits were new.
Yeah.
So boat 5 is lowered, and the people at the forward end of the boat are lowering it too fast in comparison to the aft end of the boat, and it actually begins tipping forward slightly, like in the movie, which was not exactly fun. That only made the lifeboat situation even worse for people who were like, "Oh well, now I know the officers apparently have no clue what they're doing," which isn't true.
This time, we're just trying to send off distress rockets.
Yep, we're almost there. Lifeboat 5 is about halfway down, unless that says.
Yeah, THG launched their first rocket.
They launched theirs?
Yeah.
I'll take that into account.
Like, THG's, like, original 2016 animation, bro, the rockets were a literal jump scare.
Rockets were, in this, I tried to make them less of jump scare.
Because they were just so loud, I always flint at how loud they were.
The lifeboat was not in a good place.
Oh, geez, it's all happening at the same time.
Is there a lifeboat tipping down too? Is the Titanic on our Glory, is their stream showing the lifeboat tipping or no?
Yeah, they're starting to show the lifeboat. Yeah, they're starting to lean in, but they're starting to equalize her. They're starting to equalize the lifeboat.
Ours has been equal.
We have been equalized. And Part-Time Explorer, it's starting to go for that problem now.
The Lusitania had incredibly more survivors than the Titanic, right?
Lusitania had less survivors, but also less people on board. However, the Lusitania was so much worse than the Titanic in terms of lifeboats.
Exactly.
Lusitania's
was a
lifeboats
nightmare, bro.
tumbled down the deck and hit people. Titanic did not have that problem.
That was
only in the later stage. Like it was later stages of the sinking, kind of not with the collapsibles because they were small.
Yeah.
And like didn't really drown people. Only collapsible ate.
The problem was the fact that the Titanic is only about 100 feet longer than the Lusitania, and it sank almost like six times faster than the Lusitania, or 6 times slower. Lusitania sank in about 20 minutes. Titanic sank in 2 hours and 40.
Yeah. We're starting to have like more of the interior flooding in.
Yep.
I think that's TSG. Is that Scotland Road? That's Scotland Road?
I'm not sure. My Scotland Road is there's a Scotland Road flip in mine, but it's a bit later on. Some E-deck grand staircase is actually flooding.
I don't think that's Scotland Road because it looks like it's on the.
Is it a long hallway?
It looks like it's on
Oh, I
the
asked the
starboard side.
captain, shall I send up some distress rockets? Then we started sending off these distress rockets, quartermaster and I. But I never knew how many I had fired.
So Vauxhall has gotten the quartermaster at the very edge, very back of the ship, right here, the docking bridge. He has received the rockets, which were multicolored, and they are they were multicolored. They were not white. They're now at the close to the starboard bridge wing, kind of like in the right next to the bridge, launching these like rockets at about 8-minute intervals to try to get the attention of the Californian. Californian says they saw these rockets, didn't assume anything was wrong because that's smart, and did not go to Titanic's aid.
As we were sitting there, watching, the first of about 8 distress rockets went off, so high in the sky that they startled everyone. Everybody began to talk in the dark and wonder whether our ship had been able to send off any wireless distress messages.
There's the iceberg, just chilling there.
Yeah, right here. Not all of the rockets were white, which is kind of interesting to think about. I did have the first and last rocket, I believe, be white, just because, you know, gotta have that symbolism, but a little nod. But it was, in fact, probably multicolored lights the whole time. They probably maybe launched a few white ones. Maybe. It's impossible to know.
Yeah, like in the wreck, it showed the case that held the rocket detonators, and you were able to see like white, blue, red. You're able to see those
orange,
clearly.
Purple, yellow, yeah.
Yeah.
We're looking at Lifeboat 5 right now. Lifeboat 7 is rowing away.
Titanic and Portuguese force because the water's up.
Thank you, CC. I appreciate that.
Like E-deck. Yep, CC. Harry's animation is really curious.
This is I'm working on another one right now. Should be out by next year. That might be the one that I do with the live stream. The only problem is the thing with my videos is that I'm not exactly sure what else to make. I made live streams and I made real time. That's kind of it. I'll figure it out. though, yeah, Lifeboat 5 is just about entering the water now. And this is the point where
Maybe we
the
should try that
wireless
new distress call.
messengers start using
SOS.
Also, look at the books on
It
the
may
shelf.
be our only chance to use it.
You'll see in a bit.
Where are the books on the shelf?
It just passed by. There, I have On a Sea of Glass and The Night to Remember on the book.
Oh, you. Oh, that's
cool.
I don't know whether you gentlemen have noticed it, but this ship has gotten quite a list on it now. That's not right.
And here we have everyone just like I wouldn't say they're chilling.
We're currently in the second
No
class
pun
library,
intended.
by the way, which is towards the back half of the ship, right underneath the fourth funnel-ish.
Yeah.
That's what we're in.
And they'd be discussing terms like of what's going on and stuff.
Probably talking about how annoyed they are that they're out of bed. One person's probably like, the ship is sinking, everyone's like, be quiet.
And the other one is just like, nonsense, the ship is on the sink. But the ship can't sink.
This is the mast, by the way, that whole regular thing that's extruded, like the aft mast.
Support me. Oh, that's for the mast.
That is the
Oh!
mast.
I came to this great big room, and it was full of women, and in all kinds of dress and undress. They were crying or they were scared because they didn't know what was going to happen.
The guy narrating at TSG just says like we're a bunch of nerds just narrating a disaster.
Yeah, that's exactly what we are. They are 100% correct. Boat 3's been launched, by the way.
I wear that as a badge of honor.
Well, this week I wore a Titanic shirt every single day. April 10th and the 15th.
Yeah. There's always something new to learn about the Titanic. Like, doesn't matter how many times this story has been told. There's always going to be something new.
This is true. So the forward portholes now, the D-deck portholes are now underwater at the forward part of the ship. The nameplate's about, I'd say, 10 feet up, maybe.
Yeah. And get above the water.
I believe I already, that text box is already put in there. That was a goof in the animation. See, when one person makes a 3-hour animation all by himself, there's gonna be some mistakes. Here's one of them.
Yeah, it's not perfect. We're humans. It's our curse. But we always try our best in order to honor Titanic and those who were once aboard her. Because we want to get the history right.
Flare went up, by the way.
We unfortunately live in a generation where many people just don't care and outright disrespect, like many parts of history, such as this one.
My thing is, oh yeah, here's a homage, by the way, to the clip in the 1997 movie. I hope do you recognize that?
Yeah, I recognize it.
That's my actually.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they got the position of the California wrong in the movie, and they put it right by side of the Titanic.
Yeah, they put it right.
You're only able to see her.
But in the
like
movie, you can barely see it, so it doesn't really matter.
it would start to come at around a time, like I think later down the road.
By
or
the time we
just
were lowered
now,
to the water, the Titanic had
where
begun very
the lights
noticeably
would
to go
start
down by
fail
the
a bit
head.
more. Ship started to
As we
lose
pulled
their
away, we could see the lights of the
maintain
ship
contact
and the
with their
forward
ships.
portholes gradually disappearing.
Boat 8 is lowered now. 27 out of 65.
So many people could have been like this is on Lighthauler's command, right?
Boat 8 was on Lighthauler's command. This is boat 3 we're looking at, which is on Murdoch's, which is just people not wanting to go. Lighthauler was in command of boat 8, which was his order to lower it, even though it was half full. Now, there was definitely still a sentiment of people not wanting to enter the boat, but it could have also been combined with the fact that he just didn't want any men on.
Like he stuck he stuck firm with on what was on what was considered honorable at the time, what was formal.
You know, fun fact, nowadays we still do women and children first. That's still a thing.
Ah, gotcha.
Costa Concordia, I believe, did that when lifeboats are being launched. However, they don't say women and children only, so.
Yeah, and the captain doesn't just straight up abandon his ship.
Ida and Isidore Strauss have their moment together, which is very sad, and is the old couple in the movie.
Yeah. We've been together for 40 years. Was that 40 years?
40 years.
Yeah. 40 years. Don't argue with me.
It's so unfortunate they cut that scene from the movie. It's so beautiful.
They did?
They did. It's
They
not
did.
in the movie.
Huh.
The SOS scene is not in the movie. The scene where Jack and Rose fight Lovejoy in the dining room is not in the movie. The scene where John Jacob Astor explains where he's opening up the life vest inside of the gymnasium, that's not in the movie.
Boat 8. Wow. Boat B. 8. Boat 8. My. I love my dyslexia.
Boat 8. That was also another animation goof. I accidentally said that twice.
It is 1 in the morning on Titanic's Titanic.
The steam stopped venting. That's a very bad sign. We don't want that. The starboard list is basically gone. There's still a little bit of it left, about a degree, but the water has since equalized in terms of its flooding, and is now just beginning to flood back. Around this time also is when I believe boiler room 4 was beginning to fill. As steward recognized water basically spilling down the stairs, which could only indicate water flooding above the stairs, which could only indicate that water was now beginning to backfill the compartments. So that equilibrium that the ship is in right now is beginning to topple, and that's it. If once one goes, the others go. 12 out of 40 seats, which is still worse when you realize that 7 of those were crew members.
Yeah, like for me, like it's still mind-boggling that so many of the boats left like with so little people. They just said, nah. And it's pretty upsetting, really.
It is. One instance of this was John Jacob Astor asked Officer Lightoller if he could enter the lifeboat, and he was told no by Officer Lightoller, and stayed behind and died. He died on the ship.
Yeah, he died during the sea.
He was not crushed by
It
the
is
funnel.
believed. Took the words out of my mouth.
He was not. There's more. He would have been. Yeah.
where did the soot come from on his body? Could it have been?
It could have been a multitude of things. We don't even know if it was soot. It could have been so many different things. Lightaller was pulled up against the forward grate in front of the funnel, and he probably had soot on him. It was just, there were explosions, there were lots of things that could have caused that. We just can't know. But he probably wasn't crushed by the funnel because we recognized his body.
Gotcha.
That's kind of a very hard thing to think about. Is yes, we know it was him because that couldn't have been the funnel because he wouldn't have been recognizable if it was. This is Lifeboat 5, Lifeboat 3. Yep, Lifeboat 3 passing by us. They saw the lights on the horizon and they attempted to go to those lights, so they were the furthest actually. They were 3 miles away from the ship at one point.
Is this on the road right here?
Yes.
Alright, gotcha. Now the ship's leading to port.
Just barely.
Yeah. It intensifies later on. It just gets so much worse.
9 degrees.
Yeah, 9 degrees.
Something I'm annoyed about is that I rendered these while making the grand staircase, so I have a really bad problem with the fact that I had not modeled D-deck yet at this point.
Boy.
I modeled E-deck, then I rendered this, then I modeled D-deck, so ignore that. That'll be fixed in the new animation.
Guess we're gonna have to wait till next year. Until we get to see more of your beautiful model.
So fun fact, this was actually the first interior scene that I had modeled.
It's pretty eerie.
Yeah, I managed to get the water perfected later on.
And much of the power would be failing, like the circuitry and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, because the water hasn't really reached the lights yet, but later on, in about probably 15 minutes,
yeah.
That's Lifeboat 8 down there.
Huh? Which boat?
Lifeboat 8 is down there.
Gotcha. I haven't learned the number of which boats are which.
I've been so forced to know that I know where every lifeboat was, roughly.
I might need to learn more about that. I said, like, there's still so much stuff that I don't know about.
What I know is that boat 3 was the furthest, boat 12 was the closest, boats 5 and 7 were next to each other, boat 15 almost came down on top of 13, and then 13 went really far away, and boat 15 kind of stayed behind. Lifeboat D is very forward of the ship, so they couldn't really see much. Same with boat C.
Boat number 2 was also pretty close to the ship.
If you take a gander at the door, you'll notice that it's open. Officer Lightaller at this point had told some officers, some seamen, to go down to the bottom to D-deck and open up the door. Probably because he wanted Lifeboat 6 to be, he wanted people who were down below to be going into the boats. But they did that. We know they did that. The wreck shows that the door is open, and only that door. There's no other door on that side of the ship that's open, which means that it has to have been deliberate. No one in Lifeboat 6 recalled the door being opened. And it's assumed that no one was there when the door was opened. There was no one inside the ship, and the officers who were in charge of getting the door open probably did not survive the sinking. They probably tried to open other doors, or got lost, or something. Or they did. We just can't know. But we know the door was opened at around this time.
And that same door was, I said it was left open. And it was seen at the wreck that it was left open.
Yep, that's why we... Yep.
And later over time, due to decay, the door fell off.
Did it?
And it was just, Yeah, the door fell off. It was discovered and it was put in
That's
in
right.
a museum.
It's in a museum. That door is in a museum.
Oh.
Even though it possibly happened in 2022, it still hurt to see like part of the railing of the bow like missing.
Yeah, but it's fine.
Because it starts to hit you like, holy damn, our ship is going. Sure, she still has a few centuries in her, but
This ship is fine. That railing was also supposed to come off. It was removed multiple times. There's photos of Olympic where it's actually off. That railing was for the cargo crane at the very, or for the anchor crane at the very front of the ship. They could take that piece of railing off, and that way the crane at the very front, the very prow of the ship, could be lowered over the side by the anchor crane.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, that rail is actually shocking. It actually stayed on for this long. It should have come off a while ago.
It shows just how strong she was built.
This is the third class general space, just below the forecastle and forward well deck.
And just when you think it can't get creepier. And it's ridiculously cold. It's -2 degrees Celsius. It is cold as an understatement. Cold is an understatement here.
This was my favorite interior space to model. It was very fun modeling this.
Wait, is this like the area where they show that scene where Jack and Rose were just dancing?
Yep.
I knew I recognized it from somewhere.
Yeah, they danced on that. I mean, in real life, probably not, but people definitely had parties in there.
I would love to go to that. There goes the makeshift dance floor.
They're not very good.
Oh, Hugo.
Oof.
Even Hugo is gonna stay up until 2:20. He said he said he thought he didn't have motivation. He will.
Yeah, don't be in this room.
Slight warning.
Slight warning, don't be in this room. It's a little dangerous. That water is freezing, like we said before.
Very freezing. Freezing is an understatement here.
It's a little bit cold. Yeah.
Lightoller described it as like 1,000 knives stabbing your body.
Just a little bit cold, nothing much.
Just a little bit.
Boat 5 and 7 tie up together.
Music's becoming more cheerful. Keep the cat.
That was not intentional. I just randomly put music in here with some.
I had no idea what to put.
With some important songs at various intervals that actually I know were played.
But they did play cheerful music to keep the passengers calm.
And it worked.
Until the end.
The surface of the water was like a lake of oil, heaving gently up and down, with a quiet motion that rocked our boat dreamily to and fro.
And we rowed away from the ship as fast as we could, because one has to do that, because I believe the suction when the vessel goes down is absolutely enormous.
There's another distress rocket.
Wait, this is the one that, yeah, this one. Yep. So Moody told Officer Lowe to enter a lifeboat. Officer Lowe was like, okay. And he went into a lifeboat and survived. That's how he lived. Officer Moody, he allowed Officer Moody to stay on deck. And Officer Moody passed in the sinking. You can see boat 3 still going away. They're still rowing.
Alright, I'm back.
We're very far from the ship.
The ship will start to list the port now.
About 10 minutes. Or about a few minutes from now.
So far, your sinking is the fastest right now. Of the 3 that I'm watching.
So I will know not to make it like this in the future. Got it.
At this point, it is a race against time, but it's a race against which Titanic sinks first.
They're all gonna sink at the same time.
No. Honesty of Glass is in last place.
Honesty of Glass is gonna sink at the same time because that's how the Titanic sank. If they got theirs at the wrong time, then it wouldn't be sinking at 2:20. But that is a story for another time.
Oh my
Honestly, a
god.
glass will pick up the speed.
Guys, I have an unfortunate announcement.
What happened?
I was going to blink. My eyes were so dry that it hurt. So I'm going to rest.
I would start.
And you guys, have a good Titanic night.
Good night.
So all of the viewers and you
Rest
guys.
well.
Good night.
Night, man. It's just you and me and the 11 people that are watching.
Which has somehow been consistent this entire time.
Yep.
Actually 9.
Earlier this like last week when I was in theater practice, there's this friend of mine and he saw me with my Pokemon journal and I was writing down survivor testimony on it. And he said, "You do know that the Titanic wasn't the Titanic that he was about to bring up the switch theory," and I immediately stopped him right
I've done
there.
that to my friends before. They're like, "Did you know this?" And I'm like, "Well, actually, here's like 1,000 things why." No, the Titanic was not swapped for the Olympic. Here's why. It took 2 years for them to build the entire ship. Every single part of the ship, interiors and exteriors, including the propeller wing or the propeller blade, which we've seen on the wreck, has a serial number on it. Titanic was 400, or Olympic was 400. Titanic was 401. Titanic, we've seen 401 on everything on it. Olympic had a bunch of 400 on it, which means that they would have had to completely gut the Olympic and the unfinished Titanic, swap the ships, rebuild the now Olympic, and then sink it in 44 days. That can't happen. It took 2 years to build the ships. You can't do that.
I was standing on deck.
And it took 7 months to fit
I turned
Olympics
around and I
interiors.
said to him, "Look at the
Now,
lights
how
over
in the
there."
hell are you going to swap
It's
the
another
ships
ship.
interiors in only 44 days?
That's why it's stupid.
It's just not possible. They're not speedrunners. And Harlan and Wolf, they are like they were one of the top heads of shipyard building. They did not take their job lightly. They took great care of their ships.
They did. The men in the engine room have just been released of their duty. These people, they get a very interesting rap. I think that there were probably some people that were down there, but I don't think all of the engineers were all down there risking their lives to keep the lights on. Many of them left and actually were seen on deck at about this time. They were released of their duty. They had no other things to be doing. They were no longer obligated to be helping, and a lot of them took that opportunity, which is rightfully what they should have done. A few probably did stay behind a little bit to help keep the lights on, but also the place where the electricity for the lights was towards the back of the ship. So even if you hadn't stayed there, the lights would still be on for a while.
Many of those engineers did go down with the ship trying to keep the lights on, and they were heroes for it.
Many of them did, but not all of them.
Yeah, not all of them, but quite a few did. Here we have the Olympic having Titanic's distress call.
They offered to go to Titanic, and Olympic said no. No, Titanic said no, don't, because the sight of the almost identical copy of this ship that is sinking would probably cause people to panic, which was a smart decision.
Like traumatized. It'd be like a ghost.
Yeah, so good idea they didn't do that. Also, Olympic was 400 miles away, would never have made it in time. Not not even close. It would have been there way after Carpathia.
Yeah. We have some people making it to the stern. As we have some in that area. There's the Californian around this time. Their wireless operators asleep around. I mean, they stopped a while back, but then again, who can blame Jack Phillips for being cranky?
Yeah, we talked
was
about
tired.
that earlier. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're at the point now where people are starting to say that the ship is sinking. The ship is now at a forward list that is greater than the shear, and people can tell the ship is starting to tilt down further than it should be. Also, there is, you know, rockets are being fired, lifeboats are being launched. People
My
know the
father
ship is
helped. He
sinking.
knew a lot about the sea.
And this is when panic
And he
starts
put
to
me in the
ensue.
lifeboat and told me to be good. He said to me,
This is
hold
when
on his
everything
hand.
starts
And
to
I
go
thought he was
downhill.
coming after me, but he didn't. Then it dawned on
Welcome
me.
back, Denny.
Hello.
Welcome back, Danny. Eva Hart's giving her testimony about getting into the lifeboat. Daddy told her to be a good little girl. She was. That's what she said. That wasn't a joke.
Yeah.
So, at this point, you have entered where the ship begins her list to port. So, for some reason, the Titanic, actually not for some reason, I know the exact reason, but Titanic remained upright this whole time, even though it had hit the iceberg completely on the starboard side, and actually began to list over to the opposite side of the, where the iceberg hit. Scotland Road flooding had a play in this. The coal that was in the bunker that had been moved from the starboard to the port side had a play in this. There were many things that had a play, or had a part to play in this. It's not surprising that this happened.
Boat 14 starts to get forward. There's something you don't see every day.
I think this is a lovely shot, in my opinion. I like this quite a lot.
I like that shot. It's wallpaperable.
Wallpaperable.
How on earth is this shot more quality-wise on my phone than it is on the PC?
Because your phone is a smaller area, and the details that are bad don't show up as well.
Good point. Well, I might as well take a screenshot on my phone. Nice. That shot is mine now. I'm parroting that shot.
I think that's you're gonna have to talk to a lot of people about that.
It's such a majestic sight, despite what's going on and what will inevitably come, which is the absolute horror.
There's a reason I've been obsessed with this ship for 14 years. This is why.
Yeah. I been obsessed with this
Because
ship
it's just
for...
nice to look at. I mean, it's a nice looking ship. That's like...
Yeah, she's majestic. There was a time, I think it might have been a joke, well, like a few years back, and I think because I didn't have my headphones on, I was listening to a Titanic Final Plunge video, and my mom said, "You just love the sound of screaming, don't you?" And I was just like, "No."
My search history says otherwise. I've had to look up so many sound effects of metal breaking and all that, but it's fine.
That is unfortunately true. So, like trying to like what Hugo and I discussed about like a few days ago, it like the way to interpret sound design, it's kind of hard, especially when it comes to like how what survivors testified it as and how it could realistically sound. We all have different interpretations of what it would sound like based on testimony and based on what you could naturally connect the dots with.
Yep. Lifeboat 14's going.
Yep.
Lifeboats 12 and 9 went at about the same time, which is a fun fact I didn't know before making real times. I thought they went at different times, but they actually went the same.
Oh. Officer Lowe shoots warning shots to deter the crowd swarming the boats.
So panic is starting to set in a little bit. People are beginning to swarm the boats just a tiny bit. Officer Lowe.
Yeah.
He's not putting up with it.
Discharge outlet. The condenser discharge outlet is a bit out of the water. I think that's where the center of gravity was, like the pivot point.
Almost. Yeah, it was just in front of it.
I think I remembered what it was because Mike Brady's talking right now and THG's live stream. The ocean's reaching the door.
Yep. And once that really starts happening, that's really when it starts to flood very quickly. This like the port list.
Yeah. Yeah, this is when the ship starts returning to port. And THG, the ship's trying to lean over to port.
It's starting to lean here too.
It's just ominous. And especially as well, like that hole. That hole in the front of the ship, which is where like the ship is able to be towed. It just allows more water inside as well. It's always such breathtaking as like I know I've said it multiple times, but like this is like all in real time.
Yep. This is
on the very day.
This is as fast as it happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of short when you think about it.
Yeah, it happened really fast.
I mean, that's just kind of like the thing, though, is the fact that the reason why the Titanic is so famous is because of how much stuff happened in these 2 hours and 40 minutes. Like, you have so many recounts of people. Also, the fact that it's a bunch of rich white people dying, but you've got all of these.
Yeah, it is true.
All these different stories playing out all at the same time, and there's a lot of
the heroes.
A lot of symbolism, yada yada yada. I don't like getting all poopy doopy with it. It's a ship sinking, but there was a lot of drama, and that's why it's.
It was very dramatic.
Which is why it became such a good Hollywood blockbuster.
It's unfortunate that James Cameron went with a love story.
Actually, I think it's amazing that he did that. Because if he had not done it, then it wouldn't have been in the public eye. So no one cares about a ship sinking, but they do care about a love story. If James Cameron hadn't done that, then Titanic wouldn't be as famous, I don't think, as it is right now.
And
I certainly
I went
wouldn't.
So I have
along
to
with the boat,
grudgingly thank. I have to
number
grudgingly
13
thank.
boat. I saw that it was nearly full up. I started putting other passengers and people in, helping them over the boat, over the rail into the boat. There was one very fat lady there, and she was crying out. She didn't want to go into a boat. She says, I've never been in an open boat in my life. And she says, I don't want to go. And I said, well, you've got to go, so you better keep quiet. And it took about 4 men and 2 men in the boat and about 2 on the deck to hoist her over the rail to get her into the boat. And eventually we got her in.
Frederick Gray was an interesting person. The ship's basically on an even keel at this point, which is nice.
Yeah.
You can see how the rate of flooding has slowed down.
Yeah, like what you said about the love story, like THC is discussing about it like just now.
Oh really?
About the film.
Do you think it's a good idea? Do they hate it?
Unfortunately, like it wouldn't be as popular.
Yeah, I feel like the 1997 movie is the best thing for the Titanic. I say that with genuineness. You know, I wouldn't have that. You don't. There's a reason why the Lusitania. The only reason why the Lusitania is famous is because of World War I. Like no one's ever heard of the Wilhelm. The Wilhelm Gustloff had more deaths than the Titanic by a factor of almost 9, and it's not even close to being as famous as the Titanic.
Yeah. Because like a lot has happened. Like it's the biggest ship in the world at the time. She was deemed to, I mean, Titanic wasn't the first ship, and she certainly wasn't the last ship to be deemed unsinkable.
No, Olympic was deemed unsinkable. Olympic sunk 2 U-boats and rammed another light ship and was fine.
Yeah. And especially it's like this ship, the Titanic, she was the worst maritime disaster in peacetime history. 2 years before the First World War.
Yeah, First World War almost overshadowed Titanic until the 50s.
Yeah. And then here we have her sister, Her Majesty's Hospital ship Britannic, who shared a similar fate. Well, not exactly shared a similar fate, as the cause of the sinking is different with a mine explosion. But not Olympic. Britannic now rests as the largest ship sunk in the First World War.
Yep. And it was just a bit bigger than Titanic.
Yeah, she's just slightly bigger.
And who should I see? Mr. Monk.
I mean, the youngest ones always do grow a little taller than the older ones.
He said, look, there's trouble.
It's just siblinghood.
Here, wait, watch.
I said, no. Well, he said, you'll have to jump now into the lifeboat. I said, jump.
This thing I got
With
on?
this thing I've got on?
You think I'm an acrobat?
What do you think I am? An acrobat or a monkey or something? I can jump. And this thing, what he said, you'll have to.
Oh yeah, this one with the pig, right?
Yep.
The pig.
Getting pretty dire.
Yeah. Stuff is getting very much more out of hand.
You can't really deny the fact that the ship's sinking anymore. Some people are still, but it's to the point now where you can't really walk without holding on to something a little bit.
Yeah. Especially like when the ship, like his report list when it got worse. one of the passengers said that it was almost impossible to walk on the deck without a holding of something that was keeling right over.
I never would have left the ship, but a sailor came along, and he said, say you don't want to be saved. Well, I'll save your baby. And he grabbed this pig from under my arm, and he tossed it in the lifeboat.
She still kept that pig after the sinking.
They took us to boat number 11. The officers put my little brother and sister in. They said, that's all for this boat.
THG's boats
And
are
my mother
lowering
just
faster. They're already having the
screamed.
boat
She
13
says,
and 15
please
problem.
let me in that boat. She says, those are my children. And so they did. They let her in the boat. Well, I was left on the Titanic, so I went down and saw an officer putting people in the next boat, and I asked him if I could get in the boat, and he says, sure, and he picked me up and dumped me in. I evidently was the last one put in that boat because they started lowering right away.
Propellers are coming out of the water now. They're about halfway up. I think the documentary and the imaging of the wreck of the Titanic, I think I'm very happy that they've managed to create a 3D model of the wreck, especially considering how far along it is into like disappearing. The fact that we have this unchanging
And then
digital
I saw
twin.
somebody else
incredible.
helping the people in. I recognized a man named Washington Dodge. He was a recorder in San Francisco. I'd met him on the Olympic.
Although Titanic in the real world may certainly go.
Him to come back on the Titanic.
It's because of the bacteria. They're called. What were they called again? The They were named after Titanic.
Yeah.
Rusticles.
So, when the port list started, boats 13 and 15 were actually being launched, and it was noted by a lot of passengers that they were actually pushing the boats against the side of the ship. They had to push against the side of the ship to keep the boats from like basically tumbling down.
Yeah.
Because of how bad the list was. It was about 9 degrees. just now barely start to see it, I think.
The list. She's turned the list on. D-Deck is becoming a less and less pretty sight. There's music hours before, just hours before, and now it's all going down. Stress wreck.
Indeed. I believe this is close to the last one that they sent off.
Yeah. Lights are dimming.
Just a tiny bit.
Yeah. And they become like a deep red.
Forgot I included this song.
I keep hearing a bell.
That's for the sound effect.
Oh, that's part of it?
Yes.
Alright.
We have 30 minutes left. No. Oh, 35.
Yeah, I forgot I included this song in the thing. It's the 5 minutes of Freddy's song. It was not intentional. Yeah, so right around the time the port list starts, the electro dynamos begin to fade.
Yeah.
I am going to redo this interior shot because it's kind of bad. Not a fan. Being inside the ship this time, not a very fun idea. We don't know if there's actually anyone inside of the dining room while the ship is flooding. There could have been.
Perhaps, yeah.
We just can't know. This room, the reception room, was actually the place where, I forgot her name, she overheard Captain Smith and James, talking the day before about speed, and where the kind of rumor that Jay Bruce's may have pressured the captain into making the ship go faster had kind of started. It kind of started with that interaction that she had mentioned after the sinking. In reality, it probably was just Captain Smith and Bruce Ismay discussing the plan, discussing like the speed of the ship and all that, and Bruce Ismay making the remark that they could maybe arrive in New York a day early. Probably not, but you never know. And that kind of became a little bit of a controversy, where people began to say, hey, we should arrive a day early. I'm going to pressure you to go faster through an ice field, which people say caused the ship to sink. In reality, no. Bruce Ismay did not cause Titanic to sink. He did not intend for that. Nor did he pressure the captain into going faster. That was just a product of people congratulating each other. Which, I mean, I would have done the same thing. I would have been like, we might even arrive a day early. It just all really depends on who's listening and who's going to say what you say.
Blender crashed when I was rendering it. Bruh. Sucks.
I actually had a lot of fun modeling the table set. I really liked it. It was very fun. So this animation is not included, but there probably was table lamps on the tables apparently. Underneath the tables there was cord outlets, and there was a room on the Titanic which said that there was lamp, like dining saloon lamp storage, which is kind of fun. The only photo that we have of the Titanic's dining saloon does not include those because it was probably the morning, but there probably was table lamps on the tables. People really kind of harped on James Cameron for that, for including them in the movie, but you know, reality is stranger than fiction sometimes, and something that we kind of scrutinized James Cameron for turned out to probably be true. It's fun to think about.
Blender crashed when I was rendering it. It was already taking so long.
Dining rooms really tough to go under now. The port list is almost maximum. It took about 5 minutes for the port list to go from 0 to 9 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can really see it now.
On my return, there was a very palpable list to port, as if the ship was about to topple over. The deck was on a corresponding slant.
So during this time, Archibald Gracie has actually been wandering around the ship with 2 women. Of course, I'm blanking on their names, but they, I believe the 2 of them did not survive the sinking. But he had been guiding them around, trying to get them into a lifeboat. He also went back down to his cabin to try to find something, investigated the ship, talked to people, and he met up eventually with his friend Clinch Smith, where they stayed together for the rest of the sinking. But yeah, about this time he'd come back up from his room with Clinch Smith, and had noted that the list of port was extremely palpable and was definitely a sign of things to come. He does mention the port listing is broke, I believe. Also, this is the thumbnail of the video, so I believe. This song playing right now was actually heard playing at about this time, which is why it's included. In fact, this is the song that Molly Brown says, well, you don't see that every day.
Yeah.
This is that song. Boat 10's lowered. It's the last lifeboat on the aft port side of the ship. Boats 13 and 15 are currently being loaded, or I believe they're being lowered at about this time as well. Boat 2 is about to touch the water. Or boat 4, sorry. Boat 2 is gone at this point, and to collapsible C and I believe collapsible D on the other side are being filled. You know, we all know the story of Jay Bruce's Bay entering the lifeboat right at the last second. Obviously, he was not just motivated by him being a coward, because that's not how people work. He was around actually helping as many women and children, mostly women, into the boat as he could, who really didn't want to get into the boat, because people are still afraid of the lifeboats at this point. Bruce Ismay then, you know, he looks around, there's no one there. Officer Murdoch says, get in, he gets in. And that kind of seals his fate. He made an enemy of one, Robin Hearst, or Walter Hearst, of an important American journalist, who basically destroyed his reputation.
Oh, here we have boat 13 and boat 15.
Yeah, so here they're cutting the falls. Lawrence Beasley is actually in lifeboat 13, I believe. And he said you could stand up and touch the bottom half of the boat. Which I don't know what's more horrifying, that or being on a sinking ship, but people said they touched the bottom of boat 15. The water discharge, which we saw, was pushing that. In fact, it actually pushed lifeboat 11 underneath 13 at one point. But they managed to get that out of the way, and then 13 got pushed underneath 15 as 15 was coming down on top of it. So I always wondered why they would just row underneath the boat coming down, but yeah, they were getting pushed and kind of locked in place. But they managed to get that figured out.
Thankfully, just barely in time.
Barely. They were seconds away, probably. This is the thumbnail, I believe. You can really see the red starting to show from the lights there. They get more and more pronounced, that red glow, as the
There
scene
wasn't
goes
any
on.
panic until the lifeboats left, and then there was panic galore. We were down on the ocean. We could hear them running about on the decks and screaming. You can imagine people came out from their cabin, went onto the deck, no lifeboat, tearing around the other side. That's when panic was there.
Heart's correct. There. Boat 10 and Boat 4 were really the last lifeboats to be launched that weren't collapsibles. So essentially, they think there's 4 lifeboats left. In reality, there's only 2 lifeboats that are not going to be floated off the deck that are on the ship at this point. So people are pushing towards getting into lifeboats D and C, violently being pushed back by officers. Charles Jogan is now on the deck. He throws deck chairs into the water. He's incredibly drunk. He also had noted when he went down into his stateroom that he heard what sounded like iron parting, which is what people used a lot of his testimony as evidence that the ship had broken. Of course, he was extremely drunk, so people kind of disregarded that. But he did help out a lot with throwing those deck chairs into the water. He's probably saved a few lives, and then he makes his way to the stern.
You could see by the
it's fast as a
by the
surprising as
arrangements
to
of
how
the lights.
fast we got to this point.
All the lights were burning, and you could see that she was going down.
Yeah, it's really like if you look at the forward porthole, it just went under. The ship was what 20 minutes ago was not even close to this point. Now it's dipped very low down.
Yeah, indeed.
Bruce Ismay has now entered collapsible sea on the starboard side. He did not see the ship go down. He said it himself. He did not see the ship go down. He turned away. I believe he did, though, say he heard the explosions that people mentioned when the ship broke. But he did not actually see the ship going down. Something that every modern movie likes to really make clear that he turned away.
Bruce Ismay?
Yep.
I mean, who would blame him?
I would do it.
I wanna. Yeah, like that's your creation. It's crowning achievement.
It's almost 2 a.m. Titanic has 20 minutes left. At this point, I believe or later on, there's actually a woman playing the piano for her children in the third-class general room, underneath the deck. Which is in the movie, in the 1997 film, it's actually this scene is referenced by the woman putting her children to bed as the ship plunges, which is horrifying and sad.
Yeah. Yo, Shin
Goji is here.
The boat deck's awash.
Bruh.
Come on, let's clear out. We've done our duty. Come on, we've got to be inside.
Here, if you look at the books on the shelf, one of them is on a sea of glass.
Just in time for the last 20 minutes.
So, Lifeboat 2 was the only lifeboat to round the ship, actually, and go to the other side of the ship. And this is the scariest, this is in my opinion, one of the scariest moments of the sinking. The people in this lifeboat seeing the propellers coming out of the water like that. Which are, the propeller blades are the size of a person almost, or bigger than a person. So, to see them out of the water like that must have been very, very scary for these people.
Yeah.
There's Lifeboat 2 emerging right now from behind the rudder there.
What's happening? Is that the
I believe Lifeboat 2 will be going into view pretty quickly here. But yeah, I mean, this gives a pretty good idea of how big those propellers were. I went to Belfast over the summer, and there's a little ride that you can take at Belfast, and you actually go through the hole there that central propeller occupied, and you fit comfortably. It's massive. It's actually overwhelming how big it is. Just the propellers, and then there's the small little lifeboat drifting by. The reason Boxhall wanted to go around the ship is that he wanted to go to the gangway doors on the on the starboard side. He goes there, he almost makes it, and then he really just starts to see just uncontrollable panic happening. And he decides not to go there. He decides to just continue moving.
When I passed round the boat to try and get to this gangway door on the starboard side, her propellers were out of water. I'm not certain if I didn't pass underneath them.
So, fun fact: if you're on a ship, you shouldn't be seeing this. It's not a sight to behold, unless you're in the
like
area.
seeing the propellers coming out of the water, it's pretty ominous.
Yeah, that's a lot further down than it was 5 minutes ago. So the rate of sinking is rapidly accelerating, especially because portholes on are being left open because it was stuffy inside the ship. The rate of flooding inside is increasing. There are cabins that are being flooded very, very quickly. Windows busting in. Not a whole lot of actual destruction quite yet, but there probably is at least some parts of the ship that did. Way earlier in the sinking, the ship, one of the coal bunkers, its wall actually just came down, and a torrent of water flooded through, flooded everything, and that accelerated sinking a little bit.
We can see the ship's power. It's not great right now, and it's gonna get a lot worse as it's dimming. She's losing steam.
Yeah, and people may be wondering, why are the lights turning red? The way the electric dynamos worked is it was based off of heat, so the lights were actually heated. And the less steam you have going through the dynamos, like I said, the less heat and less power you can generate. So the less hot something is, the more red it becomes, and more dim too. Which gave Titanic an eerie red glow as the ship was sinking.
And the Titanic was also due to the circuit, she was segregated into several circuits.
Yeah.
As well. So the front row would go out first at almost around this time.
For sure.
And
everything below, everything from the well deck forward probably has no power.
Yeah.
The midsection, the thing is, people don't really know that fact a whole lot because by the time the midsection had enough water to be flooded, the power had gone out completely. But yeah, you're right, the forward half of the ship is definitely underneath the water for sure, completely out.
Hello?
Huh?
Is my microphone working or not?
Your microphone is not really working. No, I haven't really been able to hear you. You're very muffled.
Pretty muffled.
Oh my god.
Like Denny.
Denny wasn't muffled. That was jealous.
Yeah, Denny is it's because are you calling my name?
I thought you'd been calling him Danny. Never mind. Bruce's May is probably like, oh crap. So the Carpathia at this time is definitely steaming towards Titanic at higher than her top speed, which severely impacted the ship, and the Carpathia never reached its maximum speed again after the sinking of the Titanic. They also nearly hit an iceberg, multiple times, about at least 3 icebergs they missed, barely, just like how Titanic had hit one, because they were in an ice field. Titanic was not. There was not a single iceberg just around. I said this a while earlier. There were hundreds of them all over the place.
Yeah.
The same ice field that stopped the California.
Like, when it became daytime, the survivors saw that they were just surrounded
on all sides.
Quite terrifying.
Yeah, a little bit.
And especially since like the ocean started to pick up roughness, because the North Atlantic is known to being worst.
That's what makes the story about the Marconi wireless machine being fixed all the more scary to think about, is that the ocean got very, very rough, ish, towards the morning, which people would not have survived in the water by themselves.
Yeah.
So the only lifeboat really left is the collapsible D, which is only a few dozen or so, like maybe a dozen feet above the water line. They didn't really lower it. They lowered the boat, but not a whole lot, just because of the fact that, look how close that is. The water just kind of came up to meet it. And that was the last lifeboat actually launched.
Yeah.
Now we're at the point now where you can actually start to see the ship sinking.
Yeah.
You can see it moving. Very slowly, relatively.
It's all going downhill. 2:10. 5 minutes before the final plunge.
10 minutes to go. Grand staircase is rapidly flooding now at this point. The D-deck reception room and dining scene are almost completely gone. Maybe the back half of the dining scene is there. The galley, the ship's galley, is probably still bone dry and maybe a little bit of water.
Yeah.
Another kind of scary or sad thing to think about. So when it comes to launching, or when it comes to lowering the collapsible lifeboats on near the base of the forward funnel, there was a gadget, a little thingy that supported the lifeboats as they were hoisted down the funnel stays. Well, that thingy, I forgot the name of it officially, but it's currently about 100 feet underwater in the very front of the ship, and they, by the time that by the time they needed to actually use it, it was very much out of time. They could not have gone to get it, so they had to push the lifeboat off the top using oars to support it, which did not work.
Yeah. But yeah, honestly, Glass is now picking up speed as well. Pick up speed pretty quickly. I might want to start recording the last minutes.
I'd record it once the actual plunge starts. I wouldn't start it. It's kind of boring.
All right.
I mean,
it's because THG is also starting pretty quick. Should we have a moment of silence, like when the plunge starts?
Maybe after. There's a moment for credits and all that. I would say so. So, Archibald Gracie is at the forward starboard side. He actually helped get the lifeboat pushed off the top of the officers' quarters, as well as Harold Bride and Jack Thayer. In fact, Harold Bride, a little bit from now, they're still tapping away at the Marconi room, and the actual, a passenger had come in and actually began to take off
the Titanic
Jack
sank
Phillips's
and lower
life
by
vest.
the head.
Harold Bride knocked
And
him
the
out.
angle
The 2
became
men left
wider and wider
the Marconi room.
as the stern
They
porthole
knew their
lights
job was done.
lifted and the bow lights sank, and it was evident she was not to stay afloat
Jack Phillips
much longer.
had left. He went to the back. Harold Bride stayed forward. He heard music playing as he had gotten the lifeboat B, which is on the port side. He got that lowered, and you know, he actually was pinned underneath that lifeboat. He was underneath it. He had gotten swept under by the wave that had crashed up on the deck. Right here is collapsible A being launched or being lowered. So this lifeboat did not flip over like collapsible B did. Collapsible A, or yeah, sorry, this is collapsible B. It managed to stay upright. Collapsible A flipped over.
Yeah.
This lifeboat was about there was about a foot of water in that one. Many people like maybe about hypothermia and all that. This is collapsible B. Harold Bride's up there.
Pushing off a collapsible lifeboat, which was on the port side of the forward funnel, onto the boat deck. Just as the boat fell, I noticed Captain Smith dive from the bridge into the sea. A large wave came awash of the deck. The big wave carried the boat off. I had hold of an oar lock, and I went off with it. The next, I knew I was in the boat. But that wasn't all. I was in the boat, which was upside down, and I was under it.
If you look at the forward davits there on the starboard side, you'll notice they're upright. That's actually still on the wreck today, because they tried to crank in the davits to get the falls hooked up to collapsible lifeboat, and it just didn't work. They had no time. The lifeboat floated off the deck before they could even do that. Titanic. Okay. So they heard 4 distinct explosions, and all of a sudden the ship rolled over onto an even keel.
The ship evened itself out of nowhere.
I got a sight on a rope between the davits and the star, and noticed that she was gradually sinking.
Officer
About this
Lightoller
time, she
is
straightened up
trying to
on an
swim
even
towards the crow's
keel
nest, probably
and
around
started
this
to go
point.
down fairly
He notices
fast.
though, he's like, oh wait, the crow's nest is connected to the ship is sinking, the crow's nest is sinking, so then he tries to swim back.
I started to swim away, but got sucked down 2 or 3 times. In fact, I got mighty near the edge of things before I finally came up alongside the collapsible. We'd hove into the water from the top of the officer's quarters, and there I hung up.
Y después she dives.
And all of a sudden she lifted up quickly, and you could hear everything crashing through her. Everything that was movable was going through her.
Here we have the stern coming up out of the water.
We heard a big rumbling, rattling noise as if everything was being torn from its moorings inside the ship.
So, something not included in this, the windows on the boat deck and A deck level would have probably been blown in by just the pressure of the water, as well as the dome, of course.
Yeah. For Honestly Glass, she just returned to an even keel now.
Well, I saw the forward part of the boat deck dip under
forward
water,
funnel,
so I jumped overboard.
It collapses,
Swimming
and that
away from
accelerates
ship,
the rate of the sinking incredibly.
Turned around to look at her, but down came the funnel and smashed into the water right in front of my face.
It landed inches away from the 2 collapsible lifeboats and basically pushed them to safety.
There goes the number 1 funnel. It depends on the theory now.
It's still debated if the dome had imploded. I'm on the side where it did, but there's good points on either side. The ship also is kind of leaning around a little bit, kind of like bobbing a tiny bit, not really staying on one even keel. I do believe that the ship had a bit of a port list by the time it broke in half, which supported the stern kind of really lurching over to one side.
Yeah.
I saw the ship in a sort of red glare, and it seemed to me she broke in 2 just in
The strain is becoming too much for the ship to handle.
So what happened was the keel, the bottom plate buckled, shoving the engines up a few decks, which created a lot of strain and basically forced the ship apart at the top decks. So it started off with the bottom, top decks then failed, and then it just went from there.
The ship breaks bottom up, top down at las 3. No puede, el barco no puede y se rompe. There she breaks apart. Yeah, when she broke apart, there goes the same as well.
Bow section just drops.
And I saw
Here we have
shipwreck the
Mom's
heart,
also in the stream. She's
and the
admiring
forepart went down nose
what's
first, and
going
the
on.
The stern of that ship stood up in the
Something kind
water.
of that is a bit of a misconception is that the stern kind of dropped down. It was more of a slow, steady release.
Yeah.
Rather than a drop. However, there was a bit of
THG just broke. And then everything goes down from here. There isn't exactly enough evidence to support that the fourth funnel collapsed.
Yeah, there's one survivor who was clinging onto the rail on top of the second-class staircase that claimed that the funnel canted towards him, which is what I've depicted here. However,
and he was drunk. He was drunk. If I remember, not Barrett. I'm trying to remember his name.
I know who you're talking about. Fireman Barrett.
Two boards starboard.
No, not Barrett. He was in a boat. He saw the shipwreck as well.
He did see
hanging on to one of these, and I was getting higher and higher in the air, and I thought, well,
I believe so.
I'll go, and I dropped in.
Y Titanic se rompió en tres piezas.
And I hit the water.
So the ship is
luckily I
maintains
didn't
an almost
hit when I
vertical
dropped
position.
in. The bodies all over
People
the
said it
place.
described it as a giant finger pointing towards the sky.
Un montón de survivors dice donde se ve como una dedo, like a black finger pointing
it. The Titanic was upright like a column. We could see her now.
Y aquí se dice en esta animación que mi amigo Harry hizo, él tiene los accounts hablando en qué está pasando de los survivors. Persona brincando, persona cayendo.
The ship's imploding. Obviously, there's implosions occurring.
People holding on for dear life. Terrifying.
It's now 2:20.
Yeah, it's around 2:20 in the morning.
It is
in the Atlantic. Yeah. The ship, she's going.
A lot of people were worried about a suction. There wasn't much of a suction when the ship went down. It was a fairly suctionless event. However, there wasn't probably a few waves here and there.
Yeah.
We should do something. It's out of the question.
And then on a sea of glass, she sinks just now as well. And THG, she's the one that's taking the longest to sink. Because some time estimates is from not just 2:20 to 2:20 to 2:23 a.m. And she's gone. That was such an amazing animation you did, Harry.
I'm working on a new one right now. There's a few things I need to fix, but I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I did use Titanic Iron Glory Demo 401 quite a lot.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna zoom in more on THG as her stern is still vertical in the air.
It's not known if it went down at exactly 2:20 a.m. Might have been a few minutes.
It's an estimate. That's why, like, in every single one of my animations, I don't exactly have it as 2:20. I always have it as approximately 2:20 to 2:23.
Mm-hmm. Well, I am going to call that. That was the live stream. Right now, if we want to see what was happening as the ship was sinking, we can observe this video here.
Aquí,
after the ship breaks, the
the
bow
she's
section
still sinking there.
Plummets downward. And you know, it's full of water at this point, the bow section is. So it doesn't experience a lot of the hydrodynamic forces that the stern experiences, which happens here. The stern, it's not one clean implosion, it's a series of smaller ones that kind of compound on top of each other.
There isn't exactly like enough evidence to support that the stern imploded.
Yeah, so I don't believe it. I don't believe it didn't at all, but I don't believe that in this animation it's simplified just for viewers' sake. But it was definitely there were definitely some moments where there was weakening of the structure. Not to mention it did spiral downward, and you have this flat front here, so the bow section slicing through the bottom. With the stern here, it's completely open and flat, which is a horrible, it's horrible for the stern because all that water's pushing backward. Where around the bow section it can kind of just like slice through. The stern section's getting it blown apart. That was seen a lot by James Cameron in his study in 2012. But looking at the bow section now, it is, full of water. There's nothing in it. It's plummeting downward at about the same speed it was going when it hit the iceberg 2.5 hours ago. And
while the crowd and the THG Uncle Mary are holding candles,
bow section strikes the bottom.
She hits the seafloor. It took about like what, 6 minutes?
About 5 to 10 minutes for it to hit down, for it to hit the bottom. Yeah.
Damn it! I forgot to honk the horn on my ship, Plush, because she has a horn.
The water pancakes on top of the bow here. It comes down, just flattens all these decks.
Yeah.
The forward hatch is blown off. The sides are blown out. The mast is already snapped back. The forward crane is rotated forward. Stern section's spiraling at this point. The poop deck is flipped up on top of the boat, on top of itself. The mast is barely hanging on. It's swinging wildly. Boilers are going all over the place. Using the boilers, James Cameron and his team in 2012 could really kind of accurately point to where the ship actually broke apart on the surface because the boilers did not move horizontally very much. They probably plummeted just straight downward because of the heaviest objects probably close to it.
Yeah.
Forward tower is not that clean, but stern section, it crashes down. The propellers here, they get pushed up through the mud. The ship pancakes down. A bunch of stuff flies off. The mast snaps downward, and it's just a mess. The bow section is in the best condition, but it's still a mangled mess. The stern section, it's just the implosions and the violent way the ship went down, as well as the water pancaking on top of the stern, really causes the back section to just become unrecognizable. And now it remains.
She's gone.
This is an overhead view. Breakup happened about here. So that was the live stream. I hope everyone enjoyed. And I will be, more updates are to come with my model. It is going well. I've got another real-time coming.
Yeah.
But thank you all. Yeah, thank you guys all for watching.
And may Titanic continue to rest, and for everyone who were lost in the sinking, for their memories to live on.